Are we good? Jackie, yeah, please.
Yeah. Okay, good evening. This is a special meeting of Livingston's Planning Board, and notice of this meeting has been published in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
Thank you. If you can please take the roll.
Mr. Ratner?
Yes.
Mr. Diner?
Yes.
Ms. Foss?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Ms. Vishnu?
Here.
Mr. Fernandez?
Here.
Mr. Reber, Ms. Cucci, Mr. Meinhardt, Mr. Pardon, and Vice Chair Santola are not present. We do have our board attorney, assistant township engineer, traffic consultant, and our planning consultant. Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. If you can please call the first matter. First and only matter.
That matter scheduled for this evening is preliminary and final site plan for Esplanade Livingston LLC, 550 and 570 West Mount Pleasant Avenue, Block 101, Lot 2, 8-10 Marcolab Road, Block 100, Lot 16, and that's located in the R5S overlay and RIAO2 zone.
Thank you very much. So welcome. If we have any new people in the audience, I'll just go through the general procedure for tonight's hearing. The applicant is represented by an attorney who will explain the application. The applicant's attorney will call one or more witnesses to give sworn testimony in support of the application. Members of the board may ask the witnesses questions, and when the attorney for the applicant has no more questions for a witness, interested parties in favor of or in opposition to the application may question the witness about that witness's testimony. When all the applicant's witnesses have testified, if there is an entity or group formally appearing as a party in support of or in opposition to the application, that party may call witnesses. When all the witnesses and the parties have been heard, members of the public may give sworn statements for or against the application. So, Counselor, you are welcome to enter your appearance.
Yes, good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Craig Giannetti, the law firm Day Pitney, on behalf of the applicant Esplanade Livingston LLC. As the Chairman indicated, this is an application for preliminary and final major site plan approval for property located at Lot 2 in Block 101 and Lot 16 in Block 100. The application is seeking site plan approval to develop two inclusionary multifamily buildings consisting of 280 apartments distributed between two buildings. One of the buildings located on Lot 2, which is in the RIAO-2 Residential Inclusionary Adult Overlay District, will be a four-story building consisting of 120 age-restricted apartments for adults 55 and older. And then the second building will be on Lot 16 in Block 100, located in the R-5S Residential Overlay District. And that will be consisting of a four-story building of 160 residential apartments that would be family apartments, so it would be non-age restricted. As the board recalls, about probably a month or two ago, we were before you to kind of deal with the first part of this application, which was reconfiguring Lot 16 and incorporating a portion of Lot 15, which is a Lifetown lot, and we did the switch of the football field, and that kind of now created the lot configuration that we're going to be proposing the site plan for this evening. The board professional review letters identified some variances relating to parking dimensions and accessory structure setbacks that our witnesses will go through and testify about and provide support for. And some of the items, too, we believe we do comply with, and we'll address that through testimony as well. So unless there's anything further of me, we have four witnesses here tonight. Mike Lanzafama, our civil engineer. We have Tom Bauer, our landscape architect. Luz Delmar Rosado, our architect. And then Gary Dean, our traffic engineer. So unless there's anything further, I'd like to call our first witness, Mike Lanzafama.
You swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. My name is Michael Lanzafama, that's Lanzafama. I'm a licensed professional engineer, land surveyor and planner, licensed in the state of New Jersey. I'm a principal with the firm of Casey and Keller Incorporated, 258 Main Street, Millburn, New Jersey. I've testified before this board on similar applications numerous times. All my licenses are still current.
At this point, I ask the board accept Mr. Lanzafama as an expert in the field of civil engineering.
Just engineering?
And planning. He will be addressing the variance relief as well.
Any questions from Mr. Moore? Thank you. You're accepted as an expert in engineering.
So, Mr. Lanzafama, if you or someone under your direction prepared any exhibits for tonight's meeting, I guess as you testify, you can just identify these exhibits and we'll have them marked for the record. And maybe starting with the first exhibit, if you can just kind of describe the existing conditions and surrounding area of the property.
Certainly. What I have up on the screen currently is from the cover sheet in the plan set that was submitted. It's an aerial image of the area surrounding the properties in question. There are two green outlined areas, so those are the properties in question. The one to the west, or the upper part of the drawing, or the exhibit, is tax lot 2 in block 101, known as 570 West Mount Pleasant Avenue. This is a parcel that is located on the northwesterly corner of the intersection of Route 10 and Microlab Road. This parcel consists of approximately 3.23 acres in size, and it is currently occupied by an existing two-story office building with a drive-through bank. You could see that pretty well in the aerial. Oh, let me just bring that down. There we go. There we go. So you could see on the exhibit, you could see the existing outline of the existing structure. You could see parking fields to the north, and along the south side of the building, driveway access currently exists directly to Route 10 and to Microlab Road. Microlab Road is the roadway that divides the two parcels. There are no wetlands or flood hazard areas that impact this particular site. Let me just go over to the survey itself. There we go. Get that on there. There we go. So this is the survey of the subject property. And you can see, again, the outline of the two-story office building and the parking arrangement. There are no steep slopes, wetlands, or flood hazard areas that impact the property. The existing topography, which is represented by the contour lines, the dashed lines you see on the plan, indicate that the site rises very gently up from West Mount Pleasant Avenue and then grades down to the north and to the east with the lower elevations along Microlab Road. Drainage from the site currently enters both state and municipal storm sewer systems via a series of pipes and collection systems that currently exist on the property. The development of the site itself is located in the newly created RIAO-2 Residential Inclusionary Adult Overlay Zone. That's a mouthful. And that zone permits what we are proposing, which is the construction of 120 apartment units that would be age restricted. There would be 20% set aside as part of that. What I have up on the screen currently, let me see if I can blow that up a bit, is a color rendering of the, let me close this, a color rendering of the proposed site plan for tax lot 2 in block 101. And what this shows you is we've colorized The building itself, it's kind of an H-shaped building that has a central amenity courtyard tucked within the wings of the building. There's also a 4-story parking garage immediately to the north of the structure. The building itself is 4 stories high, and as I said, would house 120 dwelling units. To the south of the building is what we refer to as our amenity area. There are pickleball courts, a trellis, some seating areas, a dog park located on the southeastern portion of the site in this corner of the property. As part of the overall design to provide for adequate parking for the proposed tenants that would be within the building, we've created a small parking court at the front entry to the building. There'll be 6 parking spaces available there, one of which would be handicap accessible. And the idea of this area is like for an Uber, perhaps, or some kind of delivery that might be very, very short-term, where people need to run in and out, maybe a postal service delivery, things of that sort. The main parking would be within the parking garage. It's 4 levels of parking. There'll be a total of 243 parking spaces within the garage, so that gives us a total of 249 parking spaces that would be available for the development. Based upon the ordinance requires that parking be provided at the ratio of 1.6 cars per dwelling unit. Based upon the number of dwelling units, we are required to have 192 parking spaces. There are no commercial uses. This is not a mixed-use development. This is totally residential in nature. And the project, as designed, would eliminate any direct access other than an emergency fire access to Route 10 or West Mount Pleasant Avenue. Access to the parking garage as well as to the service area would be directly from Microlab Road at the northeast corner of the project. The arrangement that we have, the area, let me blow this up for you a little bit so we can focus. I'm sorry.
Is that a new exhibit?
Well, it's a rendered exhibit of sheet 5, which is the
But it's
site
colorized,
plan,
so
so
we have
we
to mark it as
call it
A1.
as A1, which is the rendered version of the site plan for Lot 2 in Block 101.
That was page 5, you said?
And that's page 5 in the plan set, correct. So what we have is dual access, in and out, two-way traffic moving from Microlab Road into the parking garage. You can see that we have a utility room and a trash room located on the north side of the building, immediately adjacent to this loading area. And what this will allow for is for refuse trucks to pull and back in. Refuse is collected within the building. There's no outdoor storage of refuse and recycling. It's all contained within the building and would be managed by personnel management of the building. They would coordinate the pickup of refuse with the private carting firm that would bring the refuse out directly to the trucks. This would all be done on site. There's no need for the truck to park out on Microlab Road or Route 10 for that matter. And this will provide for a safe and efficient way for refuse. It also allows us the ability to have a good location for move in and move out. The moving truck could park into that area. They can gain direct access into the building through the parking garage and to the elevator that would allow them to bring, furniture back up into each of the apartments that are being proposed. The way the parking deck is envisioned is that the tenants on that floor would have one dedicated parking space to that level. So if you lived on the first floor, you would have one dedicated parking space on that level, second floor, et cetera. The additional parking spaces would be open, first come, first serve. So you know that you have your space dedicated on that level. The remainder of the spaces are available. And as you can see from the parking count, we have excess parking compared to what the projected demand would be based upon the ordinance and what many people have experienced with age-restricted types of development such as this. In addition to the overall parking arrangement and our proposal for deliveries, we're also managing the site, that is the stormwater elements of the site, with 3 different stormwater management basins. The first basin is located in the southwest corner of the site, and this will pick up a significant amount of the roof area as well as the amenity space. And then along and surrounding the north and west side of the parking garage is a second basin, and finally, a third, what we call small-scale bioretention basins, would be positioned on the east side of the building. This basin would pick up runoff waters from the paved surfaces, so allow for treatment of the water column before being discharged into the municipal system. The design concept that we have meets the basic standards, not only meets the basic standards, but exceeds the standards outlined under the best management practices, providing green infrastructure for these types of developments. The design not only meets the standards and the projected runoff rates of today, it's been designed to meet and handle and control storm rainfall events that have been projected for the year 2050 as required under the new state standards for stormwater management. In addition to stormwater management, all of our utilities would be subsurface into the building. There'll be no overhead electric into the building. Telephone, electric is all underground. We have 2 transformers located off of Microlab Road that would provide power to the building. Sanitary sewer is going to be available from Microlab Road. We're going to be extending the sanitary sewer from the existing line that runs east-west along the north side of Route 10. And that will be brought down to provide for connections, easy connection into, or from the building into the municipal sanitary sewer system. We have received review memos from Mont McDonald, the township's consultant, with regard to sewer and water, and we will be meeting all of their requirements, including video cameraing the existing sewer systems, cleaning them where necessary, and providing them with whatever information they need to be able to evaluate the project and sign our treatment works approval application forms for submission to the state. As part of the development, your planning office has identified a number of variances with regard to this project. The only one that really, in my mind, is truly a variance. I don't believe the ones with regard to the accessory structures really fall under the criteria, but we've noticed for them, we can provide proofs for them. But in any event, all of the parking spaces in the parking garage are 9 by 18 without the ability to have the 2-foot overhang. Under your ordinance, 9 by 18 spaces are permitted if they have a 2-foot overhang. 9 by 18 spaces are the standard for the residential site improvement standards, which normally govern multifamily development such as this. But we don't see any significant impact associated. The configuration of the garage is adequate to provide for parking spaces for motor vehicles with the appropriate backup, 24-foot wide backup at each location. So we don't see this as an issue. We see this can be handled as a C2 variance. We see that by not having to make the garage 8 feet wider to accommodate additional overhang for the vehicles, to make the vehicles 9 by 20 feet. Reduces the footprint of the structure. Unnecessary impervious coverage would result if you expanded it, and the parking stalls do work in the 9 by 18 configuration, and that's reinforced by the residential site improvement standards, which provide that as a standard. Under a separate section of your ordinance which deals just with accessory structures, it's 170-87E. We've identified 6 different issues with regard to the location of the pickleball courts, which you see right in through here, and that trellis area that is associated with the pickleball courts. Under that section of the ordinance, under section 170-87E C2A, requires a front yard setback off of Route 10 for accessory structures that are equivalent to the required front yard setback, which in this zone is 50 feet. The pickleball court to the east, that's the one, the lower one on the image, is 17.7 feet from Route 10, which would require a 32.3-foot setback variance. The pickleball court to the west is 18.6 feet, which would require a variance of 31.4 feet. And then the pickleball trellis, which sits between the two courts, is at 34.2 feet, which will require a 15.8-foot variance. In addition to that setback variance, there's also a requirement under 170-87EC6 that there be a minimum separation between accessory structures of 10 feet. In this particular case, you can see that the trellis is not 10 feet from the pickleball courts. So the variance requirement, is 20 feet. They're separated 10 feet, so the variance being requested is 10 feet. And that's for the trellis to the pickleball courts and the pickleball courts to the trellis. So it's kind of redundant. But in any event, these two, in my mind, are C2 variances. I think they could be granted without any detriment to the public good or the intent and purpose of your zone plan. The plan for this site was always to have amenity spaces to the south of the building along Route 10. As part of that design concept, and you'll hear from our landscape architect, we've instituted a screen wall and substantial landscaping along Route 10 that would help screen that out. And obviously, the pickleball courts are at grade, so they're not large structures that are going to be affecting the streetscape or the visual images that you might see as you ride along Route 10. The trellis is a relatively small structure, and again, in my mind, can be granted as a C2 variance.
I guess, Mr. Lansafama, with respect to all those reasons you just outlined, is it your opinion that the benefits of granting the deviation substantially outweigh any detriments with respect to the relief?
I do. And in furtherance of that, for the positive criteria for the C2, there are a number of elements of the municipal land use law purposes that in my mind, we're advancing. The first is to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use of development of lands in a manner that will promote public health, safety, and general welfare. I think the creation of inclusionary housing is certainly one of those goals and objectives, and that this helps facilitate that and provide those tenants with an appropriate place for recreation and enjoyment. To promote the establishment of appropriate population densities and concentrations that will contribute to the well-being of people, neighborhoods, communities, and regions. And G, provides for a variety of housing types, uses to meet the needs of the community and all New Jersey citizens. And for the same reason, because this is an inclusionary type development, I think it's appropriate. I don't see any negative impacts As a matter of fact, the new stormwater management elements is certainly a positive. There's actually a significant reduction in impervious coverage resulting from the development. We're reducing the impervious coverage by nearly 14,000 square feet. So that, coupled with the stormwater management elements, the enhanced landscaping, and the screen wall, I think, kind of mitigate any negatives associated with the granting of the variance.
Before you move on from the variances, can we have an opportunity to have some questions pertaining to that part?
Sure.
Okay. So, just for clarity, the pickleball courts will not be lighted, correct?
There are lights within the amenity areas. There's bollard-type lighting, but they're not going to be lit at night. They're not going to be, like stadium-type lighting. That's not going to be what's happening.
And there's no concern with regard to people playing pickleball that, I mean, it's not like tennis where balls can travel long distances and end up out of there.
That's correct.
Into Route 10.
That's correct. The wall along Route 10 helps screens that out and protect those balls from going out onto Route 10.
Okay. You also talked about inclusionary housing as part of your reasoning for the benefit here. And could you just please explain for the record, on this particular property, how many low and moderate income housing units will be provided?
There'll be 20% of the 120 that are proposed for this site, so it's 24 units.
And they will be on-site?
On-site, that's correct.
That's all I have. Thank you.
And our architect will address, the integration within the building as well, of the affordable units and the market rate units.
Yeah. Before I move on to Lot 16, do you want to have any questions about Lot 2 and what we've proposed so far before we move on to Lot 16?
Yeah, do any members of the board, before we move on?
One quick one on the spots right at the entrance there. Are those going to be signed, like, for 15 minutes? When you said Uber Eats and stuff will drop off?
We could do that. We haven't done that initially, but
Okay.
we could probably do that.
I mean, I think the intent is
Makes
that
sense,
they're
yeah.
very temporary.
Temporary parking, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, okay.
Just again, for purposes of the record, all of the detention basins will be fenced with I believe, a split rail fence, and then internally on that fence, there'll be
wire
finer
mesh.
wire fencing to prevent the potential of any young people being able to get in there if water is being maintained.
That's
Assuming it
correct.
ever rains again in New Jersey.
Yeah, they are biodetention basins. They're not wet basins that are referred to. There's not going to be water in them all the time.
Okay.
Any other members, any other questions? from the
And
board?
if I missed it, I apologize. Where move-ins and move-outs, where's the trucks?
That would
Loading,
occur
unloading?
in the loading area
Okay.
here. The trucks can move in, back into position, pull up, back into position. I guess you can't see my finger, can you? Back into position, and they can access the parking garage, and then just in the parking garage is an elevator
Okay.
that's available.
Gotcha. And that, what's the distance there that's big enough to, I mean, not an 18-wheeler, but that would accommodate a truck that would move
Yeah,
into
we
this size,
actually
these
have,
size of
I
apartments?
guess I should show that, we did submit a turning exhibit, truck turning templates for the different uses. This is a fire truck moving into, this was sheet, what did we call this? I think it was E1? Is it E1? Yes, E1, that was submitted with the plan package. And this shows you how the fire truck maneuvers into the emergency area that Fire Chief Dufford had requested. We also have, let's see, go to the next one. The next one is the garbage truck and/or moving van that can move into position, back in, and then exit out appropriately. And that's on Lot 2. I have similar exhibits for 16, but we'll hold off on that.
And they're similarly sized, the refuse trucks and move-in vans?
Yes, they're about the same size. Remember, these are, they're 1-2 bedroom units. You're not going to have a huge amount of furniture associated with them.
Any-
Movement of emergency vehicles within the garage. Obviously, you're not going to be able to get a fire truck, I
Correct.
believe, in the garage.
Right.
But there are standpipes in all of the garages. The garages are, I believe, sprinkled.
Yeah, the entire building and garage would be sprinkled. I'll defer to Luz. I believe that's the case, yes.
Okay.
How many handicap spaces will be
We have
in this
8,
building?
we have 8 handicap spaces dedicated for this building, which is what the requirement is. I think the requirement is actually 7. We have 8. So we have the one in front of the building and the remainder in the parking garage. We have them on each level.
Are they situated near the elevator?
Yes, they are. We have them, pull that down. We have the handicap spaces just off the driveway, and the elevator is right here to my left.
I know there was concern for the location of the EV stations and the ease of the fire department in the event of the need because of the concern
Right.
with EV stations to be as close to access points, and has that been accomplished?
Yes, you can see the EV spaces are located immediately adjacent to the elevator in close proximity to the driveway, and we've also made the one handicap space as required an EV space.
Okay.
And that's as close to the garage doors we can get it.
Knox boxes on the front of every building?
I'm sorry, say that?
Knox boxes?
Yes, yes, of course.
How many EV-ready spaces are there?
I believe for this building, initially, we're going to be putting in 10. We're required to have 29 under the state law, so the other 19 would be phased in over the next 6 years, as required by law.
Any of the board's professionals have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Can you go over the visitor parking spaces? You said there'll be one reserve per unit in the garage. How is the visitor parking going to be accommodated?
The garage will be accessible by visitors to the site, so they'll be able to park in any parking spot that's not dedicated to that apartment.
Do you have any idea how you're going to do are you going to put numbers or colors or signs?
Yeah, we'll have some kind of numbering system that'll say reserved for apartment 2 or whatever.
Or just some reserve?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, all right. Can you just go over the site triangles coming out of the driveways?
Sure. You can see we're showing the site triangle. Maybe I'll zoom out a little bit on this one. There we go. So as you can see, a vehicle exiting from the garage would be controlled by a stop bar and a stop sign. And they have an easy line of sight. The road, Microlab Road, is straight and true. There's no unusual grade changes. So they have a clear line of sight for over 280 feet to their left. And similarly, oops, went the wrong way. Similarly, you have a good line of sight in the other direction towards the connection with Route 10. Similarly, the vehicles that come through that little 6-car parking area also have a good free line of sight, not obstructed in any way.
So oh, no, that's the next lot, never mind. You want to just go over, I think you have a variance for the length of the parking stalls? They're supposed to
Yeah.
be 20 in Livingston?
Yeah, I did that already.
You did already? Okay, I missed that,
We
sorry.
went over the 9 by 18
All right, sorry
versus the
about
9 by 20.
Good, okay. All right. I think that's it for now for this lot.
Right.
You probably mentioned this already. Is it gated? The parking garage?
The parking garage would be controlled by a fob, right? A key fob that will open a gate. So people would come in and buzz their apartment and be allowed in. Visitors would then be allowed into.
So somebody inside would have to buzz a visitor in? into the garage.
Yeah, the apartment
Right.
would allow that visitor to access the garage.
Visitor parking is going to be for this building in the garage?
Correct.
And the access to that is by pushing the button to call who's ever
Correct.
there? And if they're not there, they can't get into the garage?
That's correct.
In which case, where do they go?
They back out and exit. That's why we have that T kind of configuration here, so they could back into there, make a K turn, and come back out.
And I'm assuming as you come out the garage, the gates
Yeah,
will automatically.
yeah, it automatically opens, yeah.
Anything else from our board's professionals?
Thank you. Hi, Grant Petto, Board Planner. Just wanted to confirm the treatment for the sidewalk paving that traverses the 6-car parking area. Is that going to be like a level grade? So like will the level sidewalk and it's almost like a speed table kind of thing?
Yeah, the area, we did different paving types. We have, oops, there we go. We have like a kind of a paver, brick paver kind of area proposed for where the parking stalls are in the driveway, and then for the pedestrian access area, it's a different material. It's all flush, and it's at the appropriate slope, doesn't exceed 2%. So the whole area is ADA accessible.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that was one of our comments. And I just wanted to also further recommend that there be some signage about temporary parking or short-term
Right.
parking for those spaces.
Yeah, we concur.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I also neglected to mention, we are in receipt of engineering's memorandum. We've made an effort to comply with every part of that so far. We will continue to respond to Jeanette and Rocco's comments. I believe we've addressed probably 90% of them. We have a few that are yet to be satisfied, but we will continue to work with engineering, and we have no problem with their recommendations and requests.
And I just had one additional question, just regarding coordination of the refuse collection. Will that be scheduled for early hours? Just thinking about conflicts with entry and exit in and out of the garage, if the refuse collection will be at some point that
Yeah, we're going to have
conflicts
to,
least.
obviously, we're going to have to figure that out, but there'll be maintenance staff in the building that will manage that. We'll work with a private carting firm, and we'll find out the optimum time to do that pickup. And depending upon what the demand is, whether that's 2, 3, or 4 days a week, we don't know yet.
Okay, and the trash room is sufficiently sized to hold containers
is.
until that
It is.
collection vehicle
Yes.
arrives?
Yeah, we have a compactor system, chutes, and we have collection rooms on every floor, so there's more than adequate for
Okay,
that.
great, thank you.
We'll get to the second lot, but will the refuse collection be coordinated for both buildings?
Yes.
Thank you.
Signage before you leave. Signage on the road, specifically access between the two buildings that go from Microlab over to Davon. We had talked about some indication that the road goes all the way through, that you have access to do that.
We've indicated a sign out at Davin that tells delivery vehicles that this is the connection to Lifetown. We talked about that during the Lifetown. I don't think we've indicated a sign that says you can drive through.
Well, I
But
think
you
we had
can.
talked about that at the track meeting as to predominantly when you're coming from the property to the furthest to the west, and to get to Davin without having to go out onto Route 10 and deal with the intersections,
Oh,
which
okay.
and we had talked about if you came out, that you would be able to get to Davin and get to that intersection that allows you to go east and west on Route 10, and that there was signage you could go through because the driveways are a little bit offset, but
Correct.
wanted it to be clear that you could do that.
Yes, I don't believe we have a sign specific that states that, but we'll have to work that out. We'll work that out with Mr. Dean, our traffic consultant, and Rocco and Lee. We'll have to figure out the exact wordage and
Okay.
how how the tenants are informed of that. Maybe, as part of a little education experience when they first move in. I don't know what
Through traffic.
Yeah. Or
Okay.
access to Dave, something to that effect.
You're basically referring to the drive aisle between Micro Lab and Davin Road?
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Correct, yeah, so you want motorists who are exiting the parking garage to realize that they can just drive through the adjoining site, Lot 16, out to Davin and to the traffic light and can then go east.
Right. Otherwise, you're going out onto Route
We
10
don't-
up to a very bad intersection, having to make a U-turn and go all the way back.
Right.
This definitely helps that, but people have to know that it's accessible.
Agreed. We'll make that clearer.
Michael, can you zoom out a tiny bit so we can see both driveways a little bit, to the north? Yeah. So the exit from the eastern lot and the exit from the western lot line up, right? The word stop and stop line up. So coming out to make, no, well, I'm saying they line up in a bad way. They don't, the driveways don't align. The exit aligns with the exit. So
Correct.
that it's a head-to-head left turn, and that could be a conflict. And then to get out, to go across, you're making like a weird little 12-foot jog to your right, get out and get back into the next lot. Is there a way to line that up a little better? I mean, it looks like, maybe
Well,
at the
the
top,
parking,
you can,
the garage
Yeah.
doors here, we would have to
I mean, you could flip,
put a little,
or if you took, see, what do you got, 3 parking spaces in the garage facing down in the drawing? If you flipped one to the other side and slid the whole thing over 10 feet?
well, I'd have to defer to
Yeah,
the
no, I know.
architect
I
and the
just
structure.
columns and things, yeah.
There's a structure involved, so.
Yeah.
I don't know how easy it might be to
Yeah.
shift that driveway, or that garage door opening
'Cause-
a bit. We can certainly take a look at it, like,
Because they're gonna do that to get out to Davin, to get out to Route 10 to go east, so that movement, I can see that movement happening,
Mike,
but we
maybe
can wait for the
just
traffic.
point on the plan for those that don't have the plan available to them, the driveways that we're talking about.
these 2 driveways here, this is the exit driveway from the parking garage, and this is the driveway on Lot 16. What Mr. Klein is referring to is that this exiting vehicle and this exiting vehicle are just opposed to one another, and he's concerned about a potential conflict if one's making a left and one's making a right. And he was hoping that we could realign the exiting driveway from the parking garage to better align with the driveway to the east on Lot 16.
Maybe you could just put some kind of an island in there, so maybe when you come out of the garage, you jog there.
Yep.
To your
Yep.
right.
Yeah, I was just
And then
looking
when
at
you're
that,
coming
yeah.
out of the eastern lot, you're jogging to your right, so
Yeah.
that they line up better.
Yeah, we
There's
can,
an
we have
island in
room
between
to
or
shift this
something.
curb line to the south and then create a little island in here.
Yeah.
And that would allow motorists to better align with.
So you're holding the north line, curb line on the eastern property, and you're holding the south
Correct.
line on the western property, but you're kicking the others wider.
Correct.
We'll see.
We could do that.
Yeah, but with the island, you better watch out for your truck turning movements.
Yeah, I mean, it could be
Your truck stuff.
mountable,
But it could
even
be
be
a mountable
striped. It might not
curb.
even be an island, it's just
There's-
to try to
there's a-
kick them over that way, yeah.
There's a way to do it. I'm sure there's a way to do it.
What method is used to open the garage door?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
What method is used to open the garage doors for motorists?
It's a key fob, like for the tenants. They would have a key fob that would open it. Motorists visiting the site would be buzzed in by whoever they're visiting.
So there would be a call box or
Yes.
something? And how many cars can queue up to that entrance?
You could queue up probably, it looks to me, at least 3 or 4 cars in that driveway.
And there's only one lane in and out, is that correct?
One lane in and out, that's correct.
So if a visitor is queued up waiting to be buzzed in, a tenant would have to wait for that to take place?
Yes, they would.
And if they're close enough behind them, they're not going to be able to back up to get around.
So Mike, on your site plan, you don't have a detail of the entrance?
No.
Like if there's a push button,
No, we
there
don't,
has
we
to be a
don't have,
tiny
we
island
don't have
there.
that detailed out yet.
But the architect does?
I don't know if they have it detailed out yet, but it's been discussed on how we would provide for access into the garage.
All right.
You know, and I may be speaking out of turn, I should talk to my client, I guess. But in some of these applications, what we've done is that during normal business hours, say from 9 to 4, the garage door is open and have free access. So that's something to consider as well.
And is there a remote bug for tenants who aren't home? I know you said sometimes they'll have to leave, but if a tenant is out of town and they want to let their dog walker in, can they do that? Yeah, I know there's technology that
We
does
haven't
that.
gotten into that detail, at least I haven't.
Yeah, just as
Some-
opposed to people turning around.
Some of these operations have a keypad so that someone could be given the code
Code,
to get
correct.
in. Can you consider that?
I haven't. The architect and I'm sure my clients, they have a number of these buildings that they operate. I'm sure they've worked out all those
I was going to
details.
say, from a practical standpoint, they don't use keypads anymore. Half of it
It's
is
their
in your
phone.
phone.
Exactly.
Right.
And you can access the garage from anywhere in the world and open it up and let anybody in.
I could open my
So that
garage right now.
That availability does exist.
Yeah,
Assuming that that's what they're going to use, and I'm assuming that they will.
most likely, yes.
Maybe
Any other questions? Great, thank you all. Mr. Lanzafame, you can move on then.
Okay, we're going to move on to Lot 16 now. Get my notes here for Lot 16. Okay, I'm going to go back to the survey for Lot 16. Let me go. Whoops. There we go.
Mike, I don't know if
Yes.
it's you or if it's the architect, but I know one of the things we talked about in all of the garbage rooms, and I know that's going to be something the architect talks about with location, but I don't know from an engineering standpoint or a water and drainage standpoint that there's water access in all of the compactor rooms and drains in all of the compactor rooms. And all of the compactor rooms are also sprinkled.
Yes, they are.
So the answer to all of those is yes.
I believe so. I know they're sprinkled, and I know we have drains in the garage one. I don't know if there's a hose bib in there as well. I imagine that could be accommodated. So the other part of this application is tax lot 16 in block 100, which is located on the eastern side of Microlab Road at the same intersection with Route 10. And this is the site of the Westminster Hotel, or the Esplanade, as it has been known over the years. This site, having been reconfigured with the additional land area acquired through the minor subdivision that we got approved last month, would bring the land area for this particular site to 5.678 acres in size. And again, this is the existing hotel site. There are large parking areas to the north and to the east, as well as access to both to Route 10, Davin Avenue, and Microlab Road from this particular site. Similar to the site before, the drainage pattern is very similar. The topography rises up from Route 10 and then drops to the north and to the east as you move through the site. The northern end of the site was basically cut off and conveyed to Lifetown. This is where the football field would be relocated to, which is on the north end of the site. This particular property, as with Lot 2, is not impacted by floodplain, wetlands, or steep slopes, and all of the utilities are readily available within West Mount Pleasant Avenue and Microlab Road. This particular development, let me see if I can find the right one. There we go. This is the rendering. This would be Exhibit A2. And this is a colorized rendering of sheet 5.1 which is the site plan drawing for Lot 16. And again, the building is very similar in its footprint. It's an H-shaped building and has a total of 160 dwelling units and 4 stories. Parking for this particular project is all surface parking. There's no garage spaces associated with this. Similar to the one on Lot 2, we have the same parking court in the front of the building with 6 spaces dedicated for drop-off of or Uber pickup and things of that sort. And then the remainder of the site has a total of 264 parking spaces for a total of 270 spaces. This site will also have 8 handicap parking spaces. There's 1 in the parking court, and the remainder are located adjacent to the side entry to the building. Whoops. You can see those are in close proximity to a side entry point into the building. In addition to that, we have a cutout in the driveway area that would act as a loading area, again, for refuse pickup and for move in and move out. You can see from the exhibit that the trash room is located immediately adjacent to that loading area. And then there is access into the building with access to an elevator in close proximity to that. You basically come through the corridor that's marked loading and take that into the elevators. As part of the overall parking scheme, there will be 16 EV charging stations installed initially, with an additional 31 EV spaces phased in over the next 6 years, which gives us a total of 41 EV spaces as required by the state code. The parking requirement for this project is based on the residential site improvement standards, and based upon that, we would be required to have 309 parking spaces. Considering the EV charging credits that would be associated, the required number of parking spaces would be dropped to 278. And we're proposing 270. So that 8-car shortfall is made up in the parking garage. Under Section 170-104.15 C11B, under that ordinance that was drafted within the R5S zone in which the property is located, we can utilize excess parking in the garage for this site. So no variance is required for the number of parking spaces. And in this particular layout, all of the parking spaces are compliant. They're 9 by 18 with the ability to have a 2-foot overhang. So there's no variance being sought as to the size of the parking spaces. Again, there's amenity spaces proposed within the center court of the building. There'll be a pool and other amenities. And then to the south of the building, again, there's amenity space. There'll be a playground for the children. There'll be some outdoor sitting areas and a trellis, as well as a dog park on this property as well. Again, all utilities would be brought in underground. Again, we have a transformer located out towards Microlab Road, which would provide service into the building. Again, there's that screen wall that we have proposed all along the Route 10 frontage to help isolate the amenity space. And we do need a single variance for one of the accessory structures, which is a a playground structure, a little gym set that we have located in the southeast corner of the site. The setback for that is 19.6 feet from the Route 10 right-of-way, and that would be a variance of 31.4 feet. And that is the only variance that is associated with this particular, what is that from? Okay. And that's the only variance that would be required for this particular application. And again, it's the same argument I presented for Lot 2. In my mind, it's a C2 variance. The setback requirement of 50 feet, I think this particular design with the enhanced landscaping and screen wall certainly offsets any negatives associated with the playground equipment being in the front yard and less than 50 feet from the right-of-way. Again, just as we did on the other parcel, we are proposing bioretention basins. In this particular instance, we have 2. These are what they call small-scale bioretention basins. The one to the south, which is along Route 10, would receive a significant part of the runoff from the parking area as well as the building roof water. This will pre-treat the water column before it's discharged into the state system. And then the second one we have is a bioretention basin that in this northern section of the site, it turns out the soils are extremely permeable. And that this would also not only treat the runoff and purify the water, but also promote groundwater recharge. And again, the design totally meets the BMP standards, not just for today, but up to the year 2050 with the projected rainfall events. Let me digress 1 minute. In looking at this, I forgot about our maintenance building. Our maintenance building obviously is immediately adjacent to the driveway. Under the ordinance that was written, the accessory structure is supposed to be set 10 feet from the driveway. And in this particular case, obviously it's not, because we have to gain access to it. So the maintenance building is permitted under the ordinance, but it's supposed to be set back 10 feet from the parking area. So obviously that would be virtually impossible to do without being able to gain access to it. So we do need a variance for that as well. And again, I think the C2 criteria is appropriate here. I don't think the setback requirement was envisioned for the maintenance building. It was probably for other types of accessory structures that might be in the form of amenities.
What is the actual setback?
It's 5 feet from the edge of the drive aisle and the nearest parking space.
And I guess to that point, Mr. Lantafama, the section 170-87E that we're requesting relief from, that's actually not in the specific zone for this property. It's one of the general zoning provisions elsewhere in the ordinance, correct?
That's correct, but I believe this particular one was in the redevelopment ordinance for the maintenance building. I think they did include that in that one element. Graham could probably correct me on that one. I don't remember. I think it was right in the redevelopment ordinance. It wasn't part of that accessory.
With respect to the playground, in the general provision ordinance, the 170-87E, that setback also, the ordinance refers to accessory buildings.
Correct.
In the setback, correct?
That is correct.
In this playground, there's no necessarily building being proposed, it's just your typical playground equipment, correct?
That is correct. Okay. As I stated earlier, we have engineering's review memo, and we will be complying with all of the elements within that memorandum. Also, as part of the design and the recommendation from the staff and through our TRC meetings, we've also provided a crosswalk on Davin so that tenants of the building, we've provided sidewalks and appropriate crosswalks and ADA accessible route from the building so that they could then get to the shopping center that's located further to the east. So we have provided that in the design. And as you can see in this particular image, the conversation we had earlier about the cut-through, you can see how easily tenants from both buildings could drive out to David Avenue and utilize the access. And let me just go to sheet. I want to do this because I know how important it really is. And here you go. You see the full access here. You can see the Walnut Street intersection. You could see the traffic patterns and the striping and directional arrows in that David Avenue jug handle. So that would easily allow motorists coming from the developments to utilize that jug handle to gain access to the traffic light to make safe and efficient movements to the east without having to travel in different directions around the area to get to be able to go east safely. So I know that was an important element to consider. I may have missed something, so if I have, just ask me the question and I'll see if I can answer it.
I have one quick one that I forgot to ask before. So it's only in the 55 and over, the western building, that you don't have the overhang, that you need the parking space
That's
variance?
correct.
How wide is the drive aisles in that garage?
24 feet.
Okay, thanks.
The low and moderate income component of this building is also 20%?
That's correct.
There's also going to be inclusionary?
That is correct.
Okay, so they'll all be
They're
on the
mixed.
property?
They're mixed throughout the building.
Okay.
Is there a limited or controlled access to this site?
No.
Go ahead, Lee.
Couple of questions. The 31 parking spaces that face the building, they overhang onto a 6-foot wide sidewalk.
That's correct.
So there'll be 2 foot onto the sidewalk, there'll be a 4-foot sidewalk left, that's adequate?
That's correct.
Okay. The maintenance building?
Yes,
Is it going to be a roll-up door?
Yes.
Okay, so there won't be any issues with equipment in the, I guess the 10-foot setback might have been for, I don't know, taking the lawnmower out and having a place to maneuver or something like that?
I don't know why we put that in the
All right,
ordinance when it was
okay, all right,
drafted.
all right. So explain now the parking shortage in the surface lot, anybody extra would park across in the garage. So you would assign tenants to the garage, or how would you do it?
We haven't really discussed it, but
Okay.
most likely that would make sense.
Okay, and then leave a half a space per,
Correct. For
over here for
visitors
visitors?
on the
Okay.
surface lot.
Right. The loading, the pull-off area, can we
Yes.
make it such that they always have to come from Microlab so that they're on the right side of the road, they pull over?
We
little hard-
we could sign it, sure,
Right?
we can
So
sign
they
it,
have to-
that,
I don't
that's
wanna
the
make it,
entry
you know,
area, yeah.
facing the wrong way and all that. The overhang shortage. Technically, I hate to say it like this, but it's up to 10% credit for
Right.
the EV, so really you got to round the 30 point something down to 30. If you round up to 31, you're technically 10 point whatever percent, as opposed to just up to 10%. Again, it's
Okay.
only one space, I don't think you need the number,
Right.
but I think,
Whether
at
it's,
least that's
you
the
know.
way I interpret it.
Okay.
That's it for me, thanks.
Mr. Lawrence, oh, okay. Go ahead, Graham. Okay.
Hi, just a few questions. One, the secondary trash room that's not adjacent to the loading space, will carts be like transported exterior, like along the sidewalk up on collection day?
That's correct.
confirming that. Okay. And then second, the freestanding lights that are proposed, are there also some, what are the heights of those as proposed? And what are those located also adjacent to the building on the eastern side in the parking lot?
Say that again?
The freestanding light?
The
poles?
light poles in the
Yes.
parking lot?
Yes, there's a couple depicted, I don't know if they're freestanding light poles
Let
on
me
the
find
eastern
the,
facade of the
let me
building.
go to the lighting plan.
Oh, thank you.
That might be easier. We'll get there. Let's see. Okay, we'll get there. There we go.
There it is.
One more. There we go. Okay, so you're referring to?
To the, I guess I think it's the eastern facade. So the bottom of this.
Yep, yeah, we're getting there. There we go.
Yeah, at the, yeah,
So there's
along the,
a series of lights along the back.
yeah, so are those pole-mounted fixtures?
Those are all
freestanding?
pole-mounted fixtures along the sidewalk. I think they have a good pedestrian scale. I thought in your memo, you were talking about maybe using lower heights. We did look at that, and it created a whole series of hot spots. So we feel that this design is the most efficient. It gives us a nice uniformity of cover with regard to the light fixtures.
Okay, and those fixtures as proposed, will those be full cutoff fixtures to at least?
Full color
reduce
cutoff
glare?
LED fixtures, very energy efficient, yes.
Okay. And then for the amenity spaces, and this is really applicable, I guess, to both properties, will there be any reduction in lighting or, turning things off, when those spaces are closed, or just a question?
Yes, yeah, there could be, they can be well controlled, that's the beauty of the LED fixtures. You can reduce their levels down to 20% or 30%, whatever might be appropriate, and I'm sure the management team will figure that out and will reduce it appropriately. It's not going to be on all night long, illuminating Route 10.
Sure, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
There had been some discussion with regard to generators, and I know at the last track meeting, we had discussed, or the fire department had asked that facility generators be provided for each building. Has that been done, and if so, where are they going to be?
We have provided generators for the building to operate certain elements. I should probably go to a different drawing, but let me see if it's right here. I believe it's right here. There's a generator proposed right by the electric room, by the trash room. This is on the north side of Lot 16. On Lot 2, it's again on the north side of the building, just off the main entrance.
Okay, is that shown on the plan?
Yeah, right here. This GEN is
Okay.
the generator here, and that would operate the doors and I believe the elevator. The elevator.
And
as well.
emergency lighting
Right, emergency lighting, things of that
in
sort.
the garage and,
Correct.
okay. And those are going to be, have bollards around the generators. What is the source of fuel for them?
Those would be natural gas.
Natural gas,
Yeah.
okay. But are they going to be protected by bollards and all, so that,
I don't currently show that, but they would be. We have bollards around the transformers, for example, so I imagine we would do that appropriately.
okay.
Yeah. Let me go back to, there you go. That looks better. But you can see the generators here, and on the the generator sits right here, right behind the transformer. You see it right here? Got it. Right there. Okay?
One more question.
Yeah.
Mike, on the parking lot, the northern section where it's depressed curb,
Yes.
how are you going to control cars from not bumping into each
It's
other?
going to be vegetated. It's a bioswale that we're
Okay.
going to use. We're going to have like hedges in there.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
growth. So the stormwater sheet flows into it.
All right, okay, thanks.
Mr. Lansfami, your memo from September 13th made reference to a number of conditions that were in our planner's report. Were there any objections to any of those conditions?
I don't remember what I said in my September 13th memo. I'd have to.
There were 10 of them.
I have
Yeah, I didn't mean this to be a
September
test.
13th, yeah. Which page?
I have to go back to it. I just have it in my notes.
Okay. So we have topologies memo of September 9th,
Right, that's-
2024.
right. That's what
Variance
you were
and
referring
design
to.
waiver discussion.
There are a whole series of conditions that were recommended there.
Yeah, I believe that we had indicated, well, we had raised some question, initially in their review, they were citing the transformers as being accessory structures, needing variance relief. Turns out that's not the case, has been the determination that that is not the situation. And that was actually item 2, 3, and 4, I believe.
Yeah, no, let me see if I can find it. There were 10 items as suggested conditions of approham.
Are you saying it was in Mr.
Oh,
Lantafama's letter, or was it in
I
topology?
think Mr. Graham's, Graham.
No, you referred it
Peddow's.
in your memo.
No, we were basically just reciting, when we draft these memos, what we'll often do is retype the comment that was made by the professional, whether it's the planner or the engineer, and then give a response. So item G in Mr. Peto's initial memo recommended conditions of approval. And I don't know if we've reviewed these, Craig. have
It just
you
says,
reviewed these?
has noted the conditions, and the applicant will be happy to discuss them at the hearing.
Right, it's right, it's G. Yeah, it's on page 13.
Yep, I got it. I'm with you. 13 and 14 of the memo.
13 and 14
13
of your memo? or the-
September, our September 13th memo.
Okay, let me pull that up.
I don't see anything in here that's unusual. The only thing I would say we are not willing to do, or not, well, it's not that we're not willing to do it, we don't want to deal with the DOT, and that's putting a bus shelter at the bus stop over at the intersection of Microlab and Route 10. We provided an increased sidewalk area and a bench, but if we have to put a shelter in
So
there.
it's number 7.
That's number
Okay, got
7,
it.
yes. So we would not be willing to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and these are, I think, on page 15 of the the planning report number 2.
And I think everything else
Yeah,
either
we
has
can-
been done or will be done.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sorry, I do have two more. So, a turning template for that lifetime Lifetown
Oh,
access.
I-
You talk a little bit about what
Yeah,
that's,
I think we had that at the last time. I don't know if I have that.
it's not this set. Or maybe just talk about a
Do I
little bit
have
what,
that in my set here?
did you talk to Lifetown and they're like, yeah, this is fine? the good
Yeah,
angle?
yeah. We
Okay.
did.
It was
we did
part of our
We
site
did do an
plan.
analysis, Lee, with
Oh, and the-
Zalman, and it looks like it works perfectly well
Okay.
for them.
The other thing was traffic calming along the main aisle to go from Davin to Micro Lab to get to the garage. We consider anything in there as far as any kind of traffic calming?
Like little rumble strips, painted rumble strips,
Well,
perhaps?
rumble, speed hump, I don't know, a raised something or other crosswalk between the two sides of the parking lot or something. I guess
We
that's
can
something that maybe
certainly-
we can
We
do.
can certainly look into it.
Yeah.
And see what makes sense.
Make that a condition later, or it depends on how much time we get. If we don't get through this, maybe they come back with some ideas.
Okay.
That could be a condition that you and I can work out, or Gary and
Okay.
you could work out.
And real quick, just as I was looking at those, one of those referenced a crosswalk connecting the two. It references the entrances, but it appears it's been moved further north. Is that where that,
Correct.
okay, makes sense.
Did you want to discuss phasing on how this project is going to go?
No.
And specifically, okay, the situation with regard to demolition and then construction?
Certainly.
This
We-
board and this municipality has seen that happen, and I, for one, don't want to see it happen
Yeah,
again.
I
So
can't- I
want to
can't
know
imagine which
when
project
they're
you're
going to
talking
start the
about.
job. Is it going to continue and not end up with a
I-
pile of dirt?
I think I can safely say, without a doubt, that my clients are very eager to start, and once they begin, they will keep working until it's done. We have secured SCD certification for Lot 2, I believe. We're waiting for Lot 16. We are hoping to do demolition before the end of the year for tax purposes, obviously. And then, once we get all our approvals and resolution compliance, we hope to start putting buildings in the ground. I don't think.
Do them both at the same
they're
time,
both-
or is it
yeah,
gonna
I'm
be
seeing
one
my clients
building
are
and then the
shaking their
other
heads
building?
yes. No, my clients are shaking their head yes, because, you know, the sites really lend themselves to this type of construction. You have vast paved areas that already exist on the site that you can keep in place as a staging area while you're building these structures. So I think it'll work very well.
Okay, so then, basically, we're talking about both happening at about the same time.
That's correct.
Okay.
there any other questions from the board or our professionals? Any questions from members of the public for this witness as to this witness's testimony? Peter's shaking his head no. Thank you.
Great.
But before you move on, I just know that from engineering, the most recent memo had, a number of items not satisfied or not completed or not dealt with. Rocco, are you, from an engineering standpoint, satisfied that the plans have on it and/or the testimony that we've heard this evening covers all of the issues that you had outlined in your report?
Yeah, I think, like Mike said, there was a couple items in our report that have to be addressed. The only items I would bring up is that, you deal with Mont McDonald with sewer consultant comments
Right.
related to the TWA and
Yeah,
BWSC permits.
that's something that we have to do as
Yeah.
part of resolution
And
compliance.
one other item, obviously, is the water and sewer department, township water and sewer department. Any
Right.
further comments they have as it relates to, main tie-ins and
Yeah,
valves and
we'll
hydrants.
work with Nathan and make sure that everything is done, whatever he requires, we'll do.
And I thought the testimony was that you comply with whatever the engineering requirements were, and also the
That's correct.
Mont McDonald.
That's correct.
Other than that, I have no other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Mr. Lanza.
At this point, we'd like to call our landscape architect, Tom Bauer.
Hi. You swear the testimony given this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Give us your full name and spell it for the record.
My full name is Thomas Bauer, B-A-U-E-R. I'm president of the firm Malillo Bauer Carmen Landscape Architects. We're based in Brielle, New Jersey, and Jersey City, New Jersey. I'm licensed in New Jersey and several other states. My license is current. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions about my experience if you'd like.
And have you been accepted by other boards throughout the state of New Jersey as an expert?
Yes, I
as
have
a
many
landscape
boards.
architect?
I don't believe I've been to Livingston in the past, but I have been to many other municipalities in the state. Yes.
And as the board accept Mr. Bauer as a landscape, or an expert in the field of landscape architecture?
Any questions from the board? And the board accepts you as an expert in landscape architecture.
So, Mr. Bauer, you or someone under your direction prepared kind of visual exhibits to kind of demonstrate visually what's being proposed, both from a landscaping perspective as well as the various view sheds with respect to the project. If you can just kind of walk through what's been presented to the board. Obviously, if there's anything new, we'll have that marked as an exhibit. But just kind of discussing, and particularly the amenity areas and the landscaping and amenities being proposed.
Certainly. If I can find my exhibits here, I will begin. I don't know where they are. Can you help, Mike? Yeah. I thought Ruth was coming up next. No. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Get your stuff here. M&B docs. Which one do you want? You want the, not the submission set, you want your graphics? The graphics, yes, please. There you go, back to the beginning. Back to the beginning? Oh, to the beginning, yeah. There you go, that's perfect. I'll start. Oh, okay. That's good? That's good, that's good. Up.
And Mr. Bauer, just be sure to speak close to the microphone so they can pick you up.
Closer? Yes.
Yep.
How's that? Pick it up? Very good. Okay, thank you. Mike's done a great job, folks, orienting you toward the site plan. What I would like to do is give you a little bit of a visual tour, if I may, some rendered graphics, as we've seen it track in the past.
Was this submitted with the,
These were not submitted. These images were not submitted. These are rendered images, rendered perspectives of the landscape
so
plans.
these would be A3?
Again, we'll call the package A3.
A3?
Okay.
What do we want to call that? Rendered?
Rendered perspective graphics.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, and what I'd like to do is I'll cover the streetscape initially. Again, tied into what Mike has expressed, you understand the land plan now. We'll talk about the streetscape of Route 10, what we envision along Route 10 and along Micro Lab Road. Then I'll talk about the amenity spaces that we have. And we have 3, as Mike indicated. We have the amenity spaces between Route 10 and the buildings. We have an amenity space of the pool, I'll call the pool courtyard. And then we have rooftop amenity spaces as well as a bonus to our residents. So I'll walk through those with you. This first image.
How many images are in this package?
There are actually 21 images, sir. Yes. And I will go through them quickly for you. I think you've seen some of them previously. This first image is
Do
of...
you want to mark these A, B, C, et cetera?
Are the pages labeled?
The pages are labeled, yes.
Okay.
Let me, if I can...
Yeah.
They are labeled. It's not on the screen? No, it's not. Let me see. How do I raise, Mike, how do I raise the image here to show you can I do that? No, that's not working. Somehow it's not.
Yeah, you might
it's-
have to zoom out.
We'll take your word for it that they're labeled.
Okay, take bottom right. Here? Brilliant. High-tech opportunity, yes. So our first image, building 1 and 2. This is a view looking down Micro Lab Road, where I'm on Route 10 looking down. We can see building 1 to the left. That's our age-restricted building, and building 2 to the right is our market building. You can see there's, Mike referenced the screen wall, and you can get a little bit of a feel for it as we enter. So there will be signage that says Levana.
I'm sorry, you're going so fast and I can't even.
I'm too fast. I will slow down and I will speak closer to the mic.
I can't figure it out.
No, that's fine. Two entry walls. The screen wall is on both sides of the project, and the graphic will say Levana at Livingston. And that is a screen wall that will be continuous to create an entrance image along Route 10. A little bit of a closer look at Building 1 to the left-hand side. As you can see, the screen wall is set back from the curb line, as Mike indicated. I think he said about 18, 19 feet. That'll be a continuous screen wall, some solid masonry wall that is compatible with the building architecture. You can hear more about the building from Lutz after I'm done. There will also be some openings, as was requested. We have some metal screening that provides some openness, so views in and out of the amenity space. There's lush landscape along the entire area. This is view 2 that I'm referring to. It's important to indicate that I think that there are mature trees that exist along Route 10 that we will be maintaining and preserving, again, for the aesthetic benefit. There's extensive landscaping within that area, not only sod or maintained lawn, but there is a series of ground cover, shrubbery, some evergreen material as well, and some additional deciduous trees along the streetscape. So the view along Route 10 will be very impressive, we feel, and create a great entrance image or image for Levana. This is the area at Micro Lab Road. Mike indicated that the 2 entrance areas are identical. You can see the drive-through, the little loop drop-off area, several parking spaces as we approach the lobby. Closer to the entry door, the lobby, there's a little bit of a seating area outside for the residents and their guests to sit and commiserate. It's well landscaped and provides a very nice, attractive entrance image at both lobbies. Inside the area in the U-shaped courtyard that Mike indicated, we have several things happening. Obviously, in the foreground is a pool. That's furthest away from the lobby, which is in a distance. It will be open 3 months of the year, as typically in our environment. Beyond that, we have, there's another shot of the pool in view 7. I see plenty of lounge chairs, umbrellas, furnishings, ample landscape, a great amenity space, not only for the use of the residents, but also for the views from the residential units above and their balconies looking down. Closer to the lobby is what we refer to as a four-season area. It's usable all year long. Obviously, the pool area is closed for 9 months of the year, but this area is utilized for the entire season. So in here, we have what we call a feature wall. It's a 2-sided area. On this side, which is toward the pool, you can see there's a bar, there's some barbecue grills, dining tables, as well as a shade trellis. And on the other side is a fireplace with a television, shade trellis as well, and more furnishings and site features for residents to relax and enjoy the out of doors. That's at a year-round basis. The amenity area outside Building 1, again, this is view 10. We talked about the 2 pickleball courts. There's courtside seating in the center, which is trellis covered, as Mike indicated. There is also a dog run in the distance, as you can see. And then there's some community garden opportunity for the residents, and a small garden shelter as well. On the other side of that garden shelter is a lawn area for use of the residents to relax and potentially expand the community garden opportunities. There are 2 trellises, as was previously testified to as well, for shade and for outdoor seating and general site circulation. We're jumping up on the rooftop of Building 1 here. This is view 12. Again, there's another similar to what we did in the pool area. There is a wall that's 2-sided with a shade trellis. On one side, we have gaming tables, pool and/or ping pong, ample seating for the residents. It's well landscaped. And on the other side, there are some barbecue grills as well. So we have several opportunities for residents to enjoy the out of doors in all of these areas. And obviously, these are well landscaped as well up on the rooftop. And from here, we have great views around different aspects of Livingston.
Just
So-
to be clear, that it's billiards, there's no swimming pool up top.
There is no swimming pool. Pool table, yes, that's a pool table, not a swimming pool, just one pool. So we're looking at Building 2 now. This is similar to what was Building 1, again, at Micro Lab Road. This is our screen wall, which is continuous along Route 10 as well. And we have some copy that says Levant at Livingston. Let me go back here because I want to point out that in this area of the site, there are some existing mature evergreen trees that we will make every effort to maintain and utilize within that area, which is actually, you'll see it's going to be a dog park. But this is a little bit further down Route 10. You can see the detention basin, the bioretention basin that Mike described, and it is fenced, we discussed earlier. It is well landscaped, and you can see, again, preservation of some of the mature trees that are along Route 10 and a continuation of the screen wall. So again, well landscaped, very aesthetic. The drive along Route 10 we feel will be very, very attractive, aesthetically pleasing, and a great improvement to Levant. As you can see here, again, you get a feel for some of the solid masonry wall compatible with the architecture, and then some of the openings within the wall as well. Inside, a little bit of a bird's eye view of the indoor area. We have the playground on the one end. In the center of the site is a lawn area. There is a wall with a video screen on it. The lawn will serve as a movie lawn, if you will, in the evening, if residents want to watch a film. There's a green roof covered dining area opposite that wall. And then in the far distance is the dog run, which is shaded by some of the existing evergreen trees. So a great outdoor amenity space for the residents. A little bit more of a view here. You can get a better feel for the wall with the video screen on it and some of the residents watching a film. Dog run in the foreground here, and again, some of the existing mature evergreen trees that we will intend to preserve. And this final slide, I think it's final, view 20, is the outdoor dining area on the back of the area. Beyond this is the lawn and the video screen. Again, well landscaped. In addition to the mature trees that we're preserving, there's ample new landscape. Our palette of materials is extensive between deciduous trees, evergreen, ample shrubs and ground cover, as well as perennials, ornamental grasses, and the like. So we think it'll be a terrific landscape and a wonderful amenity for the residents of Levant. That is my final slide.
And as I
Happy to
mentioned, we
answer
have
questions if you have any.
Yep, and we have our architect coming up next to talk more about the building itself and the materials and the look and the design. But wanted to provide a little more visual.
Yeah, no, and I think it looks great. I had one quick one on one of your earlier ones.
Yes.
There's 2 like small islands of the 2 circular entrances, and I think the one showed a tree.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure what kind of tree in terms of because we talked earlier about the sight line when you're pulling out.
Yeah, I
tree
think,
would be
it
high enough canopy that it's not going to,
would be a high canopy, yes. Mature, yeah, high canopy shade tree, minimum 6.5 feet to the lower, yes, yes. So ample site distance, for sure. Yes.
Is there rooftop amenities on both buildings?
There are both. And I should point out, too, that there is a requirement for a limit on square footage that we are complying with. There's a maximum of 4,000 and/or 10% of the maximum rooftop. So it's actually limited, which I was surprised to see, because usually boards are asking for more, and you're limiting us. So, but we're happy to comply with that.
Okay.
Yes,
You
yes.
beat me to my next question.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Got it. I knew where you were going.
Any other questions from the board? From our professionals? Any questions from the public as to this witness as to his testimony? Okay, seeing none?
That's too easy. Right. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this point, I'd like to call,
Actually, one quick question. Well, that's not you. It's going to be, you're the landscape architect.
Yes.
Right.
do you need, do you need a break? Or you-
Yes. All right, good. Okay, thank you. You 5 minutes? All right, we're going to take 5 minutes. All right, we're ready to restart. The entire board is back, as are the applicants.
Great. At this time, I'd like to call our architect, Luz Delmar Rosado.
Hi.
Raise your right hand. You swear the testimony given this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, give us your full name and spell it for the record.
My name is Luz Del Mar Rosado, Rosado.
Thank you.
I'm an associate principal at SR Design. It's an architecture firm in Vienna, Virginia. I've been with the company for about 10 years and practiced architecture for about 25 years. I'm licensed in the state of New Jersey, and I've been accepted as a witness and an expert for in the architecture field in New Jersey before.
And you were previously accepted by this board on the last application involving the Lifetown property?
Correct.
I'd ask the board accept Ms. Rosado as an expert in the field of architecture.
Any questions from the board? The board accepts you as an expert in the field of architecture.
And again, Mr. Rosado, if you could just, using the plans that were submitted to the board, walk through kind of the two buildings and describe, obviously, the floor plan or layout, as well as the look of the buildings. And if you ever going to use an exhibit, we'll have that marked and address it at that time.
The first exhibit I have in the screen was part of the application. It's a ground floor plan that shows both buildings, Building 1 and Building 2, and it's page A03.
And using this, what you have up on the screen, if you can describe quickly the kind of the floor plan and number of units in particular, as well as the market rate units and the affordable units.
Yes, so I will try not to duplicate testimony that's already been provided. As you know, on the left, it's a building number 1, it's the age-restricted building. It's got 120 units. 96 of them will be market rate, and 24 of them will be affordable units. And the building on the right side will be building number 2, 160 units. It's got 120 market rate units and 32 affordable units. Both buildings comply with the total required affordable units, but in addition to that, they will also comply with the mix requirement and unit features of their regulations.
So they're going to comply with the bedroom distribution requirements for the affordable units?
Correct. In terms of the design of the affordable units and the market rate units, both of them will have identical finishes, quality of construction. They will have the same appliances and features of the units. Both of them will be distributed through the plan and on each level. So when you see them side by side, you're not going to be able to distinguish what unit is affordable unit versus market rate units visually. The only difference that it will have between them is square footage. When you combine both buildings, average square footage of the market rate unit is about 1,070 square feet, and the square footage of an affordable unit is going to range around 940 square feet. So that will be the only difference. The rest is going to be the same quality. Some of the items, there were a couple questions that came before regarding the buildings in terms of sprinklers. Both buildings and the parking garage are going to be fully sprinklers, and every stair in the project is going to have standpipes. We met with the fire chief and we described the design strategy of the buildings. He made some recommendations. We addressed those recommendations through these revised drawings, and that will implement those changes that we discussed. Then in terms of the organization of the building and interior spaces, since Mike went through the exterior of the building, I'll run by that quickly. He already described that the building is going to be secure and have a control access. Once you enter the building, you will be, and I'm going to zoom in in the pink area. You'll be directly entering to the amenity areas. We designed both buildings to be compatible with each other, so the design strategies that we use for one building are going to be similar on the second building. In terms, when you enter the building in the center, you have the amenities that are centralized in the floor plan area for convenience. Each building is going to have its own amenity program, separate from each other, and they're going to range about 9,000 square feet for each one. And so that's a pretty good size amenity for each building. It's going to have programmatically, there's going to be rooms that are typical of a luxury type of multifamily buildings, such as fitness room, co-work space, club room areas, leasing mail room, package room, and that sort of amenities. Both buildings will have a high double space area with a second floor balcony that's going to be overlooking into the amenities, and it's going to be facing directly to the courtyards. And that's going to be located right here where my cursor is in both buildings. There's also going to be a pet spa in both buildings, and we are going to have bike storage room in both buildings. Once you pass the amenities, tenants can then access the upper floors via elevators. There's 3 elevators on each building, and they're distributed in the plan for convenience. On building number 1, you have 2 elevators on the south, 1 elevator on the north, adjacent to the parking garage. And the same strategy on building number 2, where you have elevators on the location on the south and 1 on the north. Then the units, there's some ground floor units, and then when you go on the upper floors, it's going to be a typical floor where you have units in those levels. There was a comment regarding noise coming from amenities and the ground floor units. As a landscape architect described, there's going to be landscape throughout the adjacent to the building that's going to provide some buffer. There's also going to be patios in front of the ground floor units that's going to provide some distance to those amenities. And in addition, there's going to be quiet hours in this building, then that's going to help. However, these are ground floor units, typical condition of a multifamily building that you see in other developments. So we see no issue with that question. On the second floor, once you go to the second floor, as typical, you have the wall.
And this is sheet A5 of your set?
Yes. Sheet A, page A05, residential floor plan R3, typical residential floor. And what I want to note in this plan is that every unit, both affordables and market rate units, will have balconies. So that's one of the features that is going to be provided in both unit types.
Will the leases have restrictions on what, or will there be restrictions on what can go on the balconies? Yeah.
Yeah, yes, what exactly that is, I'd have to check with the client, but there will be restrictions on that.
Only hang out red and green.
Okay. There is access from the garage levels on each floor. So each level of the garage will directly connect to the residential level of building 1. Then as we move up, this is page A07, roof plan. This was also provided in the application. And this shows the roof plan and terrace. This floor is going to be accessed by the 2 elevators, and there's going to be an elevator lobby for tenants to use. And for egress and access fire department, there's going to be 2 stairs located at opposite side of buildings that are located here, one of them and the other one here for building 1, and for building 2, you can see the stair here and here. Okay. Now, this building also has lofts, so it's 4 stories with lofts that are compliant with the regulation and building height. Now I'll move to architecture. You see the beautiful renderings that the landscape architect shows, so I will only show one. And then down here on the floor, I do have a material board. That's a new exhibit.
Mark this A4. It's maybe you could hold it up. Was the material board of the materials being proposed for the building?
Material board, and it's labeled as SE01.
Maybe you could pass it around, and then you could provide testimony as to the exhibit of what's being proposed from material and look standpoint.
They're heavy. Yeah. So design-wise, again, our strategy is to have 2 buildings that are compatible with each other, and they mirror each other. So symmetry was important to us. Color was important to us. We want to keep it simple, elegant, light, and warm. We selected a brick that has texture and color range that we are proposing to use as the base and, coming up to the 2nd, sometimes the 3rd floor of the building, and a combination of fiber cement siding and panels of 2 tones, a light color and a beige color, on the upper floors to provide variety. Yeah, thank you.
Are you able maybe to zoom in on A16 to kind of see that change? There we go.
So this is a view for building 2 at the entrance. If you see the brick comes all the way up to the 3rd floor here as the 2 portions of the buildings come out. And then on the upper part of the building, we're showing a fiber cement siding of 2 tones, a light color, white, and a beige color here. And that will provide a variety in textures and colors. We are proposing a heavy trim at the cornice to just give articulation. But again, we were looking for a palette that was light, but also had texture to keep elegant design and simple. And then our design strategy to provide contrast is to bring a bronze color around the window frame, the balcony railings, and the canopy entrance of the building. So that will be a highlight and an accent of a darker tone for contrast. Another design item that we think is important is that we wanted to use large windows for the units to bring a lot of light into the units, and that's what you can see in the perspective rendering here and here, large window sizes, okay? Like I mentioned before, all units have balconies, so that adds articulation and depth into the building, brings shadows, provides recess, just to add variety into the massing. And those are design techniques that we use in this building and on Building 1 to, give interest in and have an elegant design. Okay.
Are you using e-glass in the windows?
Yes. We are using low E-glass on the windows, and we're also using other sustainable design measures and strategies in this building. As a matter of fact, I'll just mention them right now. The building is going to be a smoke-free building. I'll mention a few. They will have Energy Star appliances, low-flow plumbing and water sense light fixtures, low E windows, like I mentioned. We know we have electric vehicle charging stations, energy efficient mechanical systems. We will have recycling in the building. And also paints and adhesives will have low VOCs.
Can you just point to your board what the brick is that's going to be on the wall along the Route 10 side?
This is the brick that I believe is going to also be used along the wall side. I know there's 2 colors of brick that are going to be used on that wall. I'll defer to a landscape architect to describe the materials for that feature.
Could you pass that back again?
Sure.
Is this what you said?
So this is the brick wall along the front on Route 10.
What, that's not the
That's the material, but not the color necessarily?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Not the color, right? You don't want it gray.
Well, you could ask, there's going to be a combination of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, we was talking about porous and something that's going to.
Yeah.
Do you have any concern as to the porosity of the brick that you're going to be using and creating a problem with? I mean, you're going to have sprinklers out there against it and splash up and that wall getting badly stained and not looking good in a short period of time? Because that brick that I'm looking at on your sample board looks like it's going to soak up anything that gets on it.
Are you speaking of the wall along Route 10?
Yes.
I will defer to the landscape architect.
The landscape, the material board is for the building, it's not for the wall. It'll be a,
Oh, that's not the,
yeah, that's not for the wall, that's for the building.
okay, so then that's not what,
Yeah, we can have,
do you have a sample? of
yeah, we
what
have
that's gonna look
we
like?
don't have a sample, but Mr. Barrett can describe the brick being used for the wall along Route 10.
Is it on? Yes,
Please
yes.
speak slowly.
Yeah, honestly, my thinking was that we would be using the same brick.
Okay.
The 2 colors, the darker at the bottom of the wall and a lighter brick at the top. But I'm not familiar with the porosity of the brick. Luz, can you comment on that?
Did you see the sample board?
I saw it earlier, yes, briefly, yeah. But I'm not sure the porosity. If there was, are you concerned about irrigation hitting the wall?
I mean, my concern
concern?
in looking at that material is that it's going to get stained and not look I'm being kind, it's going to not look good in a very short period of time. And that's the main face of what we as citizens look at going up and down Route 10.
Well, we want that wall to look terrific. Yeah, that's important to us for the whole image of the project for that, so we should.
I raised the question, and
Yeah.
I'm not a professional and I'm not a
Yeah.
mason, but I think you need to look at what you're using on that wall and ensure that it's going to be something that's going to hold up over time.
We will certainly do that. I just want to make sure that that whatever we select for that wall is certainly complementary to the building.
Yes.
Yes.
And one of the things I wanted to point out, it's hard to visualize with 3 pieces of brick how the building is going to look. This particular brick, I don't know the technical aspect of the brick, but what I can tell you is got a lot of range and color. When you see a bigger, larger area of that brick, you're gonna see a variety of tones and also texture. So it's not like when you have a flat or smooth brick, it may attract more, in my opinion, maybe dirt or, be more visual for items. But this particular brick will have texture, tones, and color variety that probably is not being represented on the 3 bricks that you're seeing here. Also, the color of the grout will be important, and that's going to add to the richness of the color of the brick, in my opinion.
I think what
Thank you
this-
for the explanation.
I think
I
what
still
Ms.
have a lot of concern based on the material I'm seeing, but
Yeah, I think,
Yeah, it's not about the color of the brick, it's about the composition, that the water and the rain and the sprinklers and the salt and everything else is going to destroy the appearance of the facade, because it's going to soak it up. It's the process.
It has to do with the density of the brick. Yeah.
Correct.
Mhm.
I think that's the concern.
Yeah.
Is it correct, the concern is it's resistant to staining? Or deterioration?
Yes, that's
from-
porous. I mean, again, I use the term porosity, but it's what I'm looking at in that material, and I have no idea how that material is treated, but it appears that it would soak up whatever gets on it like a sponge. That's what I mean by porosity, that it's gonna very quickly change the color that you think is gonna be out there now is not gonna be there in a short period of time, unless that material is very different from what it appears. And again, I don't know any specifications or anything, but it's a very important front for us on Route 10.
No question.
And we've spent a lot of time talking about it and the separations and the openings, and clearly don't want that to be diminished because the material on there is gonna get, not mold, but whatever is growing there is gonna end up
We will
on
be sure
that.
to select and specify a brick that will not stain.
Okay, and perhaps we can, whatever may turn out to be, that maybe engineering will have an opportunity to review what the final brick will be to some satisfaction, that will have a sense of comfort.
We could agree to that.
We'll be sure, yes.
because I know, that, I know that you've heard the concern of the board, even at the track meetings, when the wall was just one solid wall, and, the concerns that the board had about that, and you were all very good in trying to minimize that. I think it's just going forward, still having a wall there.
Yeah.
But having something that may look great for a year or two, but then, in year 5, 6, 8, 10, has taken on a patina that, may not be that attractive.
Yes, I understand the concern, and we will address it, yes. We'll select the proper material.
Thank you.
And from a landscape perspective, the worst it should ever look is the day it's done. It should only mature and get better over time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have nothing further direct from the architect unless there's any more questions from the board.
Any other questions from members of the board?
Yeah, I have a question. I don't know, do you have your actual landscape plans up there? Or access to them? Sheet A7 specifically.
Landscape plan? I'm sorry?
No, the architectural sheet A7. It's the rooftop that shows the loft units. Yeah, go up, keep going up. Right there. So where you show all the loft units, are those lofts going to be where they will have direct access to the roof from those apartments?
No, they will not
Okay.
be direct.
So what are the little like boxed white areas? There's the kind of the shaded area that I assume is the apartment, but then within the border of there's like little white areas. What are those supposed to be? Are those like patios or something? or-
Here? This is what you see below in here.
If you zoom in on like one of those loft units, there's a, a rectangle, some of which is shaded kind of tan, which I
I
assume is the
see.
unit, then there's
I
like
see.
a white section.
Right
Right
here.
there. Yeah, like what's that?
Yes, that is just a box out area, just to, give shape into the
Okay, so it's
loft
not
area.
like a
It's not accessible.
Patio or, okay, thanks.
Do you have an overall breakdown of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms for all of this?
We do. For building 1, 96 market rate units, 13 are one-bedrooms, 27 are one-bedroom dens, 36 are two-bedrooms, 20 are two-bedroom dens. And then for the affordable units, 7 are one-bedrooms, there are 24, 7 of which are one-bedrooms, 17 are two-bedrooms. That's building 1, the age restricted. In building 2, for the 160 unit, 120 market rate units, 37 are one-bedroom, 18 are one-bedroom den, 62 are two-bedrooms, 11 are two-bedroom dens. And for the 32 affordable units, 6 are one-bedrooms, 19 are two-bedrooms, and 7 are three-bedrooms.
Thank you.
Just clarification again, with regard to the units that are dens or lofts, they're going to be designed so that they cannot be made into bedrooms, legal bedrooms.
Correct.
Okay.
And they will follow the regulation for dens.
Will the dens have closets in them or doors?
They will not have closets in them, and they will be open to the
Okay.
space next to it to comply with the regulations.
Thank you. Go ahead, yes, Lee.
I don't know the answer to this question. Is there a restriction on the age restricted that goes with the land, or like, so that the 120 units are always age restricted?
Yeah, the one building under fair housing, well,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so the building, as part of the zoning, is required to be age-restricted for the one, because each building actually has its own zone, one age-restricted zone, one's a non-age-restricted zone.
Are there any members of the public that have questions of this witness as to her testimony?
You assume I'm done.
Are you? Oh, so I didn't see the green light on until now.
You were talking, I wanted to let you go.
Oh, sorry.
From a emergency access, roof access, there's going to be, I believe, but I just want to confirm, access to all roof areas via regular stairs.
Yes, there's going to be egress from the roof through 2 stairs for emergency access.
Okay.
And for access to the roof, there will be 2 elevators that will go up to that roof terrace.
Right, that's to the amenity areas, but is, the amenity area is the only roof that's, is the only roof area, there's nothing, there's no mechanical equipment on any of the roofs?
There will be mechanical equipment in the roof, you see in typical multifamily buildings.
And that's readily accessible through the same stairs, because you're not going to use an elevator in the event of a fire.
How would they access that area of the roof where the mechanical equipment are?
Maintenance, so the general public is not going to be accessing the mechanical units. For maintenance personnel will access these mechanical units when needed, okay? And then they will access the unit and do the maintenance, and then it will, come back through the terrace area or access the stairs of the building.
Okay, thank you.
Your question was about hatches, right? We don't want any hatches to get to the roof. It has to be stairs. Is that what you're?
Again, during the track meetings, I'm recalling that we discussed and that the fire department made the request that or asked the access to all of the roof areas, and it was indicated that they were all being done by stairs, not a hatch or a hatchway.
So in
And
the-
I just,
and
I'm
those are actually shown
confirming
up.
that that's the
Yeah.
case.
Yes, that is the case. There
That's
are
fine.
2 stairs that will access the roof for both buildings.
One more question. Did you go over the air conditioning units and heating units? I don't remember. Is it, each unit has their own? Are there things on the roof for the hallways? How is air conditioning and heating being taken care of? Do you know yet? Or-
There will be individual mechanical
Magic packs,
units
yeah.
in each unit, in each residential unit. There will also be some equipment, typical multifamily building in the roof,
Right, for the hallways
for
and common areas?
hallways,
Yeah,
amenity
yeah.
areas, and, supplemental spaces.
Just wanted to confirm the proposed, I know there is some mechanical equipment proposed to be on the rooftop. Will that be effectively screened from, view for the rooftop amenity area and also view from below as well?
Yes, there will be, from below, there will be a screen via way of parapets. They're also going to be centrally located towards the center of the building. And there are features in the landscape design that have a screening that, if you need more details, Tom can describe what those are.
Yeah, I was specifically talking about the rooftop equipment, so the ones up on the roof. And I think just circling back to the access comment, the fire access for code compliance is no more than, I believe it's 100 feet. I may be incorrect, but as far as the roof egress to the stairs to get off the roof, I think it was 100 linear feet or something, and the plans do comply with that, correct?
The distance between stairs is going to be compliant
Okay.
with applicable building codes. Again, we also discussed this with the fire marshal.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Yeah. Just a little confusion. So on your floor plan, and it makes no difference if you look at a one-bedroom, in your mechanical rooms, you have a designation of WH. I'm assuming that's a water heater.
Yes,
Yes?
correct. In the units? Yeah.
Okay. And EVR, it's a new term for me. What is that?
Oh, EVR, it's a way of, I would defer to a mechanical engineer to describe, but I believe it's related to the exhaust of the unit and ventilation for various equipment of the units.
So that's the mechanical heating and cooling?
No. It's part of it, and it's to bring fresh air and exhaust air into the unit.
Okay, so it's a fresh air exchange?
Cover ventilator uses an exchanger to purify and dehumidify air in the building. Learn something new every day. Nor did I.
Any other questions? Questions from members of the public? Richard? We're good. Thank you.
Thank you. Then our last... Our last witness is our traffic engineer, Gary Dean.
My name is Gary Dean, D-E-A-N. I think, did we get sworn already?
No,
He's
you
meant
swear-
to
It's
do
been a
it.
long night.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Again, Gary Dean, a principal with Dolan and Dean Consulting Engineers of Somerville, New Jersey. By way of background, I'm a licensed professional engineer in New Jersey and a civil engineering graduate of Lehigh University, and I've been actively practicing traffic engineering and municipal consulting for the past 40 years. I believe my last appearance before this board was for the Forge Hill senior community by Premier Development, maybe 2 years or so ago. And prior to that was Lightbridge Academy, Starbucks, among other uses. My license is current and remains in good standing. For this application, prior to even getting to the site plan.
Any questions?
Let me
from the
just,
board?
yeah, let
I'm
me just
sorry.
see if they'll, I'd like Mr. Dean accepted as an expert in the field of traffic engineering.
And the boards accept
Thank
you
you.
as an expert in traffic engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had outlined, I would say, the significant merits of the proposal you have before you, which constitutes a redevelopment of the commercial property, principally the Westminster Hotel, an office building, a bank, and a restaurant. The benefit of this redevelopment is to substantially reduce traffic to about a third of what it historically has been. And part of that is born from the inclusion of senior housing. And with senior housing, by and large, those residents do not exhibit the same commuting patterns that I'd say normally occurs with multifamily housing with a concentration of traffic at rush hours. And with that, we have prepared a traffic study dated May 9th of this year. It is for 550 and 570 Mount Pleasant Avenue, prepared by our office. And unless the board has some specific concerns or interest in traffic volumes, I just will submit that the report sets forth the standard content of a traffic impact study that includes counts that we did along Route 10, Davin Micro Lab, and that includes a projection of traffic associated with the community. As I've indicated, the most compelling part with 120 senior units is that they generate very low traffic impacts at peak hours, principally, you know, for individuals who are retired or partially retired. You know, I asked the question somewhat rhetorically, why on earth would you go out at 7:30 in the morning? Generally, you wouldn't. If, you know, you have that capability in your personal schedule, you know, we leave after rush hour. For the multifamily units at 160, and I'll focus on that, that generates about 1 car a minute. It's not a high volume, and part of that is not everyone leaves at once. And certainly what we've seen since COVID, particularly for younger residents, they all figured out how to work remotely. Why get in a car and commute when, you know, this device connects us to the world, and by Zoom and all of the other platforms, people can still work. Many of the amenities in newer buildings such as this have, I forget the technical term, but workspace separate and apart from the unit, just so that the resident can not feel like they're working out of their apartment, but can go to the amenity space and use a cubicle or a workspace that allows them privacy for conferencing and things such as that. So that tends to keep the traffic suppressed in terms of what we saw 20, 30, 40 years ago. One of the other benefits of the site is somewhat reversed in that although the property sits on New Jersey Route 10 and there are driveways to Route 10, the entire project has been designed to internalize and not create new points of conflict on Route 10, and in fact driveways will be eliminated, that all of the access will be via Davin and Microlab as featured on the plan. Just today, and yesterday we submitted our application to NJDOT to close those driveways. That application was deemed complete by DOT, and we expect to have our permit, knock wood, within, say, 45 days or so. So that process has started. The application to DOT does also include, and I don't know that I'll be able to find it on this plan properly, but it includes, at the request of your fire department, an emergency-only access on the westerly side of the senior building that would allow perimeter access to that side of the building, and that has been included with our DOT application. In terms of impact, what does this project do to traffic conditions and the like? Because it is a net reduction in traffic, it is just that. It suppresses or reduces the impacts from what have historically been generated. But I'm very pleased to say, and our traffic study sets forth all of the sort of technical and supporting documentation, that the ingress and egress to the site itself, to Davin Avenue and to Microlab will all work at very favorable levels of service. I'm sure you've heard traffic engineering testimony, but level of service is a descriptive term we use to basically rate or gauge intersection operations. And we are projecting very favorable levels of service A and B during both peak hours. We recognize that particularly in the evening peak hour at the traffic signal, and I'm going to point, it's just to the lower left-hand corner of the exhibit, but it's the intersection of Davin and Route 10, Mount Pleasant. There are longer delays on Davin and on Walnut. And the reason for that is all of our hands are tied by DOT. DOT likes to have people staying on their highway and moving, I'll say, as efficiently as possible, quickly, perhaps ideally. But because of that, the state favors the highway movements, principally because there's just more traffic on Route 10, and they don't want to create congestion on their highway. As a result of that, and it's just the timing of the light, the sequencing, it means the delays, the wait that we experience as drivers are long. And it's at level of service E, there's no getting around that. It simply has to do with the way that the signal is timed and the delays that are inherent on both of those approaches. It's nothing that mandates any change that we've seen, or mitigation is the technical term, but it is a remedy, I will say, over time. If citizens, your engineer, all feel, hey, you know, things are starting to back up a little bit more than they used to, it's a simple exercise to request the state to move 2 seconds, 5 seconds of time off of the highway to favor the side streets. We don't anticipate a need to do that, but that is a remedy that always exists, you know, in that perpetual battle between the interest of local concerns and the state. With that, we've reviewed the overall site plan, certainly feel that the parking sufficiency meets all recognized standards. For senior housing, there is a slightly lower proposal for parking ratio, which is permitted under the RSIS standards, recognizing that with many senior homes, it's oftentimes a single resident or older couple, if you will, who share a vehicle. So for that reason, it requires less parking than otherwise required under the RSIS requirements. The market building, which is featured behind me, fully complies with that amount of parking, both for residents and for visitors. The one area that I just want to describe briefly, and Mr. Klein and I chatted about it, maybe it's easier to use the cursor. I'll focus on I'll call it the connector aisle or corridor between Microlab Road and Davin. And Mr. Klein had asked, you know, do we need to introduce some element of traffic calming? That's a current buzzword traffic engineers and, you know, often planners will use to introduce a physical element in the road to slow traffic down. I don't necessarily like to solve problems that haven't proven to exist, but I think before we even open, using a few pieces of decorative paving courses, whether it's brick or fake cobblestone, adds two things. One, and in a colored pavement, it adds a visual cue to the driver of something different in the road other than blacktop. So just because it looks different, we all tend to naturally slow down and pay a little closer attention to that feature. But also it provides a textural element as drivers traverse it. It's got a little bump or a little rumble to it, and that has proven to be very effective to draw a little greater attention to those areas, and particularly where we have the handicap parking and the probability of more people backing in and out. Somewhere along there, subject to working with your board professionals, I think, and I'll defer to Mr. Klein, but that has proven to be an effective way to do that, as opposed to speed humps and physical vertical relief. Candidly, none of us like to use, and it has issues, particularly with older drivers, just trying to figure it out, and also emergency personnel. So we believe that meets the spirit and intent, will provide the necessary traffic calming, or should I say desirable, that Mr. Klein raised. With that, we have concluded that, as I've indicated, the project certainly has a fair number of benefits in terms of improving traffic than what the site has historically seen, and that with the changes to internalize traffic and keep it on Microlab and Davin, it certainly lessens the challenge, if you will, of traffic getting on and off Route 10 directly. And I think that is a significant benefit given the nature of the project and the use as residential. But in conclusion, I've found that it would be safe and efficient access and circulation, certainly sufficient parking, and I'll leave you to make your own opinion on the aesthetics of the site, but certainly I feel it's an enhancement and better organizes what has existed on the property. And if there's any specific questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Of course I have a question. I think you said that the intersection of Davin, Walnut, Route 10, it would be an E, not an F?
Correct. And it is today, and it will be tomorrow, with or without this development or change in site traffic. So it is, and meanwhile, that's on Davin and Walnut. Route 10 operates at B and C. So that's what I mean. The state favors their traffic, arguably to the detriment of local traffic.
Could you just, for the benefit of everyone, explain what the difference between a D, an E, and an F is at a traffic light?
I sure can. Just for reference, we did include that in our report on page 6. It is delay. We as drivers, we sit there, we wait, we check our phones, we change the radio station while we wait for the light. If it's at a light, if it's less than 10 seconds, that's A. That's great. We would love to see that everywhere. At the upper end of the spectrum, level of service F means a delay of 80 seconds or more. That's quite a range, you know, and I will say 80 seconds seems like an eternity while waiting for a light. E is between 55 and 80. And then B and C, and I don't mean to confuse you, I'm going in an odd order, but B is between 10 and 20 seconds, and C is 20 to 35. Now, how do we get to a delay like that? This signal, and I just want to look it up before I put my foot in my mouth, this signal operates on a 105-second, call it a background timer. That means every 105 seconds, more than a minute and a half, it goes through the entire sequence of green, yellow, red, and then on Davin and Walnut, green, yellow, red. So because it favors Route 10 at, and I want to give you the exact time if I can find it. Here we are. It favors the timing on Route 10 I can't find it. I just had it. I'm sorry. By easily 60 seconds. It's probably a little longer, and I'm just trying to find it. So that means even if there was one car, you're the only car there waiting at Walnut or waiting at Davin, you're going to wait 60 seconds. That already, by default, puts you at level of service D, even if you're the only car. And it's just the way the state favors Route 10. It's not the pipe is too small, the road is too narrow. It's just the way the sequencing works. So that's, unfortunately, those are inherent delays that other than petitioning the state to steal it away from Route 10, that'll have consequences to more people, there's no real way to avoid that, unfortunately.
Because, I mean, the reality of at the end of the day, between 4 and 6 o'clock going east on Route 10, that traffic light, you could sit at 2 or 3 times before you get through it. And the same thing as you get to the circle, if you were continuing down in that direction. And the traffic backs up all the way to that light.
And that's
So
what.
cars trying to get out of Davin have nowhere to go. And that's not going to get worse when you add 280 apartments.
Fortunately.
Regardless of what time you want to go out.
Fortunately, right. Going, I'll say, east at night, most people are coming home. So there's very little being added in terms of trying to go east toward the circle. Now, if someone decides at 5 o'clock, now's a good time to go visit the mall, okay, that's a bad time to go out, but they'll wait. Fortunately, you know, as I'm sure you all have learned, there are certain times a day you just don't go out. It's not like an office building that emptied at 5. So there is some discretionary element, particularly for the residents who will, we hope, avoid going out at those critical times.
So really, except at those times, it's less of an issue of cars queuing. It's just an issue of waiting for the light to change, no matter how many cars are there.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, and there are obviously external conditions that affect, you know, it's a domino effect. So it affects each subsequent intersection. The intersection itself can process it, but obviously DOT needs to do more to their highway system. And
But-
that's,
Sorry, but you're not concerned that with the cars backing up, let's say during rush hour, that it will back up past the driveway, or that these driveways will back up?
no, and that's one of the benefits, obviously, of getting rid of the Route 10 driveways. Obviously, you could only go west at the time, but we know that, and it was a question, I think, in one of the early memoranda, perhaps from police, of what will be the effect or impact of the property to the west at Oakner Parkway. And one of the benefits of this overall design is that it allows the senior residents, which are to the top of this exhibit, the ability to come out to Davin and then go east and have zero impact on Oakner to the west.
Right, but you have both buildings sending people to Davin, and if it already queues up and you're waiting a minute at
Correct.
least,
Correct.
and how many cars can you fit before you hit that driveway is the question.
We've pushed the driveway, I'd say, an appreciable distance away from the intersection. There's and I'm pointing, so forgive me, and the word Davin on the exhibit is the left turn lane for traffic to get into that loop. That distance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, and a little, is 120 feet away. So
Okay.
6 car lengths, maybe 7. That's, and in the morning though, because everything behind us is essentially commercial, there isn't a whole lot of outbound traffic at that time. It's basically available for the residents.
Lee, you have any questions or comments?
Can you just talk a little bit about the circulation and the access in and out? So you talked a little bit about how people from the senior will be able to come east, to continue to go east if they come out at the light at Davin. People that are coming from the west, they're going to come in, they're going to use the Walnut Jug handle.
Correct.
Or can they get in through Oakner? and sneak through, right? There's ways of getting through, I believe. I can't remember what, I looked at
You
it the
could
other
take
day.
it Oakner to Industrial and all the way
Yeah,
around.
okay, and loop
it's
around.
very circuitous,
Yeah.
but it's.
If you
it's
live here,
possible.
you
Correct.
might figure it out, yeah, okay. So you're not really, I mean, you didn't analyze Oakner. There's other
No.
developments that we've seen coming in on Oakner, and they've analyzed, and I think the last one was an adjustment to the timing to make that work a little bit better. So, I mean, as far as the volume that might use the Oakner jug handle, you want to just look at figure 4 and tell us in the morning out of the 26 or 32 that are going westbound, they're going westbound. They're not trying to use the
Correct.
jug handle to come back,
Yeah, but
right?
it would make no sense
Right.
to go to Oakner, leave the site.
Right.
Go west, hit that jug handle, to
Just
turn
to-
around and come east to
Right.
get back to this same point.
Right.
That was one of the critical elements of this, call it pass-through.
Right, right,
So
okay.
that's why, and I know the police had a question about that during one of the early tracks. So Lee, to your question, we have a total of, I think it's 32 vehicles
Going
turning west in the morning. So one car every 2 minutes, to put that into context, and they would stay on Route 10 West. So they would be a through movement at Oakner and not bother with the jug handle.
So you mentioned the levels of service at Route 10, Dav and Walnut, that Route 10 gets levels of service Bs and Cs, and we get Es.
Correct.
So there is some wiggle room in there and not violate DOT's, access code and all that kind of stuff to be able to, if we wanted to ask for some improvement there for.
Not that
the
we're
signs.
subject to it, but,
No. Right.
and bear in mind, we looked at existing conditions, right? Forget the site, just here we are today. It's E today. So, I mean, if you wanted to request to DOT, can we have 2 more seconds, 5 more seconds of green time? Certainly it would benefit the users of the intersection. That's certainly a remedy you have, available today. And it's just a simple request to the state. You show them these levels of service, Mr. Klein could do it, and make that request. Certainly, we would provide him with whatever information is needed to request that. If, we just can't guarantee the state will do it.
Right.
That's the problem.
And then with the traffic calming, is there anything, a raised crosswalk? I don't know if there's any ability on either side of the handicap spots to do some kind of crossing, because there's no real pedestrians going westbound on the north side of that through road.
Right, there's no reason for anyone to walk across
Right,
this aisle.
right.
So the only, if we were to put in a vertical element,
Yeah.
hump, curb, what have you,
Yeah.
table, it's a pain to snow plow. I mean, there are a whole lot of reasons why I don't advocate them. It's available, and if it becomes an issue of speeding or volume, I have no doubt this applicant will be the first one to say, we're gonna put something in. It's just, it's always available. As I said, I don't like to put them in initially. But I think putting in some textured.
Yeah, at those spots,
We can choose
right.
a few locations, and
Right.
I'm pointing, forgive me. Call it the northeast corner of the building as someone comes in, and then perhaps in the loading zone.
Right.
Midpoint, and we don't need one at the end because people are coming to a stop sign, so. I think 2 in that area makes some sense, but again, textured pavement, oftentimes they're crosswalk width, 6 feet. I think in this instance, 10 would be a little bit more effective, so that we get, both wheels, and again, it's either stamped concrete or asphalt is proven to be very effective in a brick pattern, and concrete certainly durable, and that can be tinted. Again, the visual contrast is key to having those work. And it's also visible at night, this will be lit, obviously, but having two forms of that, call it awareness, make them more effective.
I mean, how do you feel about just posting it 25 miles an hour? Do you think Title 39 is necessary, things like that?
They're not public streets, I mean, Title
It's not,
39
right,
could
okay.
apply. Unless PD is gonna put a speed gun out here, it's so hard those signs, candidly, we as drivers, and I'll be the first to admit, we suffer from sign pollution. Leave here tonight, you will probably count within a span of a half a mile, 35 or 40 signs. We just stop looking at them and paying attention. but that's what our DOT likes us to be constantly reminded.
Great.
I just have one question, just
Certainly.
the discussion around the pavement treatment and kind of that, this generated a thought that I had, or a question. And I don't know if it's for Mr. Lonzafama, but the easement for the driveway access onto the Lifetown property, is that going to be, would that be best accessed in the westbound direction only for trucks making those movements into that driveway area for the loading? And limiting those turns from the eastbound direction? I think predominantly, if I remember the site plan approval for the Lifetime property, that's for trucks and deliveries in that back location. So it would be, I would assume, larger vehicles making that left turn, potentially making that left turn into the Lifetime.
I will have to defer, I was not part of that particular application, but I believe the intent geometrically, the way that is designed, it is only designed to accommodate right turns.
Right.
From, say, Davin, or, you know, now I've moved the exhibit, into that service entrance only. If we need an additional sign, my recommendation.
I noted that there were
pointing
signs restricting that entry to
Posts
vehicles only.
facing eastbound traffic with a no left turn sign, we'll certainly have
Okay,
that. Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry if it was the wrong person, but.
No, it's a good question, I'm the right guy.
Almost done. Any consideration, and I know it's not necessarily your responsibility, but there is a mall, a little shopping center across the way with restaurant and gym and pedestrian access across Route 10 coming out of your property. Is there anything that you are doing or proposing to the state with regard to, besides closing up the driving access, to improve people being able to get across Route 10 without dying?
I don't have an exhibit, unfortunately. There are pedestrian amenities, push buttons, and a crosswalk on the east side of Davin at the traffic signal. One of the things that came out of our various track meetings was connectivity of this site to the shopping, just say to our north and east. And we have added, there it is, we have added a crosswalk, and then we have continued the sidewalk all the way up to the north where there is another crosswalk so that people can walk, you know, from their house to shopping. Your question, I believe, is
Right.
Can they get to
The other side of Route 10.
Correct. I thought, and I remember, and again, I don't have an aerial. Mike, is there an aerial
there's
somewhere in here?
Cover page, you showed a cover page.
I thought there was already a way to do that.
Look at that one. If you go to my plan set.
Nice job. Yeah, there it is. Thank you. Yeah, we don't have a crosswalk here is the issue.
Is it on your plan?
Yeah. Okay, so we've all found, there we are, thank you. So, again, forgive me, to the lower right-hand corner of the aerial is the existing crosswalk with a sidewalk system that goes around the outside of that loop. So our residents can get there. The question is, how do they get from here to here? And that's where we go back to where we have put that crosswalk in. It's a mid-block crosswalk, and now I've lost the plan, but I believe, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, it's somewhere right up in here. I'm pointing between them.
Top of the page, I think, where that little sidewalk turns into the shopping center.
Well, there are two of them.
Right at the top of the page.
There's one at the top of the page. Almost.
The one to the north is easy, and that's not an issue,
Right.
because you've addressed for sure.
There's-
It's trying to get,
Yeah, there's an
not
existing.
getting people in a car and driving across the street because they want to go to that gym or they want to go to that produce market or
Right.
to a restaurant on that side.
There's an
Is
existing-
there some simplistic way to get there by foot? If you
Yeah.
haven't done it, and there's the possibility before you finalize and you get your building permits, assuming this gets approved, it might not be a bad thing to take a look at.
There's
We
an
don't need to
existing
beat it to
crosswalk.
death.
right along Route 10, there's an existing crosswalk.
Correct.
Across David, and then there's the one you're putting in further up.
Correct.
And the DOT, we recently confirmed, and they've agreed now, as part of their improvements to the circle, are gonna run sidewalks on both sides of 10 from the circle all the way to the brook. You know, the problem is a divided highway. There's medians, so you only have 3 chances to cross, and there's already one there, I think.
And taking advantage and connecting to this system we've included it. The question is, does, you know, would the board like, would Mr. Klein endorse, or your engineer endorse a crosswalk, you know, right at the end of that turning lane for people to get across Davin and then pick up that walkway? There are 2 white stripes. We can certainly add it if that's the desired location. The one thing I didn't address was dealing with the bus shelter. I would say the applicant, certainly, not to spend your money, if you could get it approved, they certainly contribute toward that, if not put it in. The problem is when you go to the state thinks it's Christmas, and the next thing they want is bike lanes and 10-foot wide multi-purpose paths along Route 10, and it gets to be very unwieldy when you try to do something nice and the state goes overboard. So if it's a municipal request, it's very different than a private developer request, and that is the conundrum, is it turns into rebuilding traffic signals. I mean, the state gets, I hate to say it, piggish in their requests when you try to do something beneficial. It's no good deed goes unpunished. So that is the conundrum in, love to do it, but if it didn't come with a penalty, and that's why I said if it's something that town felt strongly about.
Any other questions from?
Is there a location not on 10, on Microlab or on Davin where you could put it, where it wouldn't be in DOT's jurisdiction?
Yeah, but then the bus won't come there.
No, but I mean, just a shelter to be able to say, okay, and you could probably, if you did it on the right spot, you'd see the bus coming, and you come out of the shelter, get on the bus. Does that not work?
I think it's too far away. The
Okay.
bus stop is further down by Microlab, so.
Right, so I'm saying, if you did it on Microlab, just outside of the right of way, I mean, you can think about it, whatever. Yeah.
Then it's, I mean, and it's near the senior housing, and it's like, I've got to make the bus, and
All right,
I
okay,
worry about
all right.
mobility and how quickly people
Yeah,
will sprint
okay.
to get to the bus.
All right,
so.
no problem.
But fair question. All right, and again, thank you for your time. That's all I have.
2 quick things. Number one, I'm sure that if we make it a condition that you and Mr. Klein can work out any traffic calming, devices along that spot. Also, there was a condition that was suggested by Mr. Klein, and you talked about senior housing, there's less cars, less traffic. As a condition of approval, making sure that that allocation remains the same. That we're not changing.
That's what they, I guess. That before they
Right,
said
so I
the
wanted to just make
zone
sure that
restricts it.
there's no objection to putting that as a condition of approval as well.
Well,
Well, that'd be
that's
age
already in
restricted?
the ordinance.
Right, but
Yeah.
Unless we change
We
the
have-
ordinance. They can't change that.
any questions from members of the public? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you again.
So at this point, if there are any members of the public that wish to make a sworn statement in favor of or against the application, this is your time to do so. And seeing none, I will turn it back over to you.
Great. First, I want to thank the board again for this evening and recognizing it's a special meeting and working with us to get this application on before you. I thought the witnesses did a great presentation explaining the project. Everyone worked real hard to make sure that the project was designed and laid out in conformance with the zone, and that would be asking for essentially no relief or minimal relief with respect to the application. The project is, obviously being an inclusionary project, providing the affordable units that will be, obviously benefiting the town and its affordable housing compliance. It's consistent with the court-approved, or the town's court-approved affordable housing plan, in addition to being consistent with the zoning adopted for it. With respect to relief, Mr. Lantafama presented the testimony for the C2 variances for the parking on Lot 2, in that having the extra 2 feet in that parking garage really doesn't gain anything other than making the parking garage bigger. And with respect to the accessory structures, those setback requirements are in connection with the pickleball courts, the playground. The ordinance talks about accessory buildings. We didn't consider those to be the buildings, but notwithstanding, we're requesting relief for it just in case. And he provided the justifications too under the C2 standard, demonstrating that the benefits of the application as a whole substantially outweigh any detriments with respect to the relief being sought and the purposes of zoning that he felt were furthered. Other than that, I know the applicant is excited about this project. They appreciate the town's concerns of its visibility on Route 10 and making sure, obviously, the look of it. We agreed to some of the conditions that would be part of the approval. I can just run through a few that I have to make sure we're on the same page. First, with respect to Lot 2, in the drop-off parking areas, we're agreeing to put the short-term or temporary parking signage to make clear it's not a permanent parking spot. On Lot 16, I believe Mr. Lanzafama and our professionals will work to address Mr. Diner's comment about either lining up the 2 drive aisles or having some signage directing people to get towards 10 East and to direct people from the Lot 2 building or the age-restricted building to go down that drive aisle. In addition, we agreed to work with Mr. Klein on some sort of a traffic calming measure, and Mr. Dean referred to the kind of textured paver setting or sections within that drive aisle to provide from some traffic calming measures. And then we're agreeing to provide a brick for the brick wall along Route 10 that does not stain, and we would agree, when that's selected, to present it to the board engineer for his review and approval as well.
And then there was those list of conditions that were contained in the planning memo.
Yes, in the page 15 of the planning report, we would agree with those conditions, the only one being the bus shelter. That we would not agree to.
We also usually have a condition for the dens and the lofts that they not be used for bedrooms. You want that in the resolution as a condition?
Right, yeah, and also the balconies basically not becoming storage areas.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The balconies are not becoming storage.
Balconies can't be used for storage.
Or clotheslines.
And I think the temporary parking signs were on both lots, correct?
Yes. Yes. I'm sorry, 2 and 16.
Mr. Chairman, the issue of disruptors on the driveway between Devon and Nicollet, I like the idea of it. Is it something we might want to consider putting in as a condition, whether it be color or texture?
So where was that, Sam?
The crosswalk connecting the two.
The driveway between the 2 buildings, between Devon and Nicollet. I'm a little concerned.
Just have
No, yeah,
the
we're-
crosswalk. Right.
Yeah, we're agreeing to the, so we're going to work with the traffic engineer.
So with that, the parties having had the opportunity to make closing statements, it appears that the applicant and all interested person and board members have a reasonable opportunity to be heard, that the evidentiary record of this hearing ought to be closed. Absent objection, in the absence of any motion for a continuance, the evidentiary record is closed and no further testimony or evidence will be heard. The board members will have an opportunity to state their views on the application, and as a result, either can make a motion to approve or disapprove, or to give non-binding guidance to our attorney to prepare a resolution for consideration at the board's next meeting. So, any
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to certainly thank the applicant and all their professionals for a well-thought-out, well-presented application, very thorough, answered all the questions. I'm personally, as it relates to the variances, I'm satisfied that technically the accessory, it refers to I think the intent is really accessory buildings, but in this case, it's a gazebo between two pickleball courts. I don't think the separation of the reason exists there. Certainly the maintenance building, I don't think there was ever an intent that you wouldn't be able to drive up to the maintenance building. So I think certainly the C2 criteria are met there, and I'm also satisfied, particularly in the 55 and over building, that the likelihood of getting very many Ford Expeditions or Tahoes that are super long is pretty remote. I think you're going to have more standard sized vehicles, so the 18 feet I think will be sufficient in my mind. So for that reason, I would certainly be in favor of granting the application.
Only because of the amount of information and the number of items that we've got. I don't necessarily disagree with Barry.
Well, yeah,
as to,
non-binding
but
is
I
fine,
would
yeah.
like to, I would suggest a non-binding.
Sure.
So that we have the opportunity to review it and that everything that needs to be in there is in there. It's an important two pieces of property and not a minor development, and I think we all want it to be right.
So I think it's a direction of the board to give non-binding guidance to our attorney to prepare a resolution for consideration at our next meeting for us. Oh, that's right, yeah, the transcript won't be, so, yeah, so do you want to give a date? So we need to give a date. December 17th? So December 17th, I guess, subject to the transcript. So, look, if it becomes an issue, then we can just, notice it for the next meeting after that. But hopefully it'll be ready for the 17th.
Sure.
Okay, anything else? Okay, with that, motion? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, have a great evening, everybody.